up, phone buzz, turn it up. Got my coffee, got my day. Tuned in, locked in, Alex J. Let's do brunch with Alex J on Pulse Online Radio today. Laughs, good vibes on replay. Let's do brunch with Alex J.
Good afternoon and welcome to Let's Do Brunch. This is Alex J and you're listening to Pulse Online Radio. This afternoon I have the lovely Paulette Pinkerton in the studio. You want to say hello, Paulette? You can.
Hello, Alex. Jay, thank you for having me today.
And Paulette's going to share some of her life and work stuff with us today. And also Paulette's like myself, she's experiencing menopause. So as you know, it's a running theme in the studio because I'm afflicted with it. But as we were just talking there, it doesn't define you and it doesn't make you the person you are. And you can overcome it and work your way through it. So good afternoon. I'm going to play you a wee song. This is Salute by Little Mix and we'll come back to you in a few minutes. Paulette, so I introduced you there as a member of my Superwomen team, and anybody that has been listening to the show knows that I have an amazing group of women around me, and I'm so fortunate that you have now been added to the team for the last 6 years. You and the lovely John even as well, your husband.
Yes.
Tell us a wee bit about yourself because your life story to me is just so inspiring. You're one of the most inspirational people I have met. And how you started out and what you've come through, and even in recent times because you got married to John and John was from America and how you met, and then you had to go through the whole visa process. So maybe we can come back to that a wee bit later on for anybody that might be going through that at the minute. So tell us a wee bit about yourself.
And thank you very much for having me on today. It's a brilliant opportunity just to reflect on my journey, where I am now, not just as a mum but as a woman in the modern day society of working, and also as someone who's also experienced a lot of loss in their life. And you know how I kind of not overcame it but adjusted to it and navigated my way through that journey as well. I am the only girl out of 7 brothers, so I was brought up to be kind of tough, but I was also surrounded by people that would always protect me as well. I am a mother of 4. My kids have all grown up now. My oldest son's 30. He's kind of got his own family now that I'm very proud of him. And I also have a 23-year-old son and a 17-year-old son. And I have a beautiful daughter at 17. Sorry, Adam's just turned 18. So they keep me busy. My life is all about them now and trying to mentor them through their journeys in life as well. And I kind of think about with myself at the minute, it's just all about enjoying every day that you have because of the experiences I've witnessed with loss. You have to make today count, and really embracing that and trying to make the most of every day and pushing your kids to be the best of their ability and know what their abilities are, and that everybody's learning styles is different, and how you're guiding them through school and through life and stuff like that. And yes, I am married to American John. We're going to be married 10 years this year. And that's kind of been a bit of an experience as well.
And we'll come back and cover that experience because I think it's very, very interesting, and also the process that you had to go through. It's not very easy to do.
No.
And you went through an awful time to try and get everything sorted out. But he's here now and we're all sorted. Paulette, tell the listeners what you actually do for your career. I know that you... the company that you work for is a global company.
Yep.
So if you just let everybody know what you do within that company and what the company does.
Yeah, so the company I work for is a company called Version 1. We are, I am a woman in tech. That's how we describe ourselves, even though my role is not a technical role, but we class ourselves, we are women in the technology world. Within my role, I'm facilities. That's what my background is facilities, managing buildings and stuff like that, and compliance falls in with that. So my role is no longer just specific to one building. I'm now global, and my responsibility is compliance now. So it's making sure that all of our buildings are compliant, they're falling within the legal regulations and stuff like that, and a lot of that falls under health and safety as well.
So it's a lot of responsibility.
It's
in
a
your
lot
job.
of responsibility,
Yeah.
and could be maybe some travel and stuff like that involved, because I'll have to visit sites. I have to go to Bangalore next month to go onto that site to carry out risk assessments and just make sure that that building is following the same kind of suit as the rest of the buildings, that we've got a consistency of how we're managing those sites and managing health and safety.
And tell me, Paulette, how did you end up in, like, did you ever think that you would be in a career like this, or how did you end up
I
in
didn't,
this position?
and I think it's one of those things, one of the hate things that I hate is when my kids are going to their career teachers and they're asked, when they're picking their GCSEs, is what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't think any of us know what we want to be when we grow up. It's about setting a good foundation and seeing where the road will take you. Some people do know what they want to be, if they want to be a nurse or a doctor or a dentist, but some of us don't. We don't know where our strengths lie. And for me, I left school with no A-levels or no degrees, a few GCSEs, and it's just the way my mum and dad brought us up. We had to work. You had to go and earn your keep and earn money. They didn't really see the need for school if you weren't going to be a doctor or a nurse or anything like that. And I think just with me getting into an office environment, I was able to build on the skills that I had and the strengths that I had. And I think one of the best things for people is when they take a leadership role or a management role, because then you're going to have a massive impact on somebody's life or somebody's career. And I was very fortunate enough to meet a lady called Elizabeth Linden. And I met her at the very, very early stages of my career, when I first went back to work after having James. And she was an amazing mentor, leader. She was able to pick out the skills in me. She was able to make me feel that I am better than what I think I am. She encouraged me to go back to school. And this is where we started off, on the facilities, on managing buildings.
And how old would you have been then, Paulette?
I would have been in my 20s then. I had James when I got pregnant with James when I was 22, had him at 23. So I must have been around 26 or something like that then, 27, when I came across Elizabeth. And she is still, to this day, I'm 52 now, and I still talk about her. When it comes to, women and inspiring women, she's the first woman that will always pop into my head from a career point of view. She's the one that really dragged me and pushed me and made me believe in myself, and that's kind of where I am today. And I always follow her on LinkedIn and hope that she's following me on LinkedIn to still be proud of me.
Yes, and I think that it's very, very important to surround yourself with the right people.
Absolutely.
And the right people will cheer you on and never be resentful of anything that you're achieving. 100%. They want it for you, and then they'll look after themselves. But it's so great to be surrounded by the other superwomen in our lives, and that's what I'm saying. It really is something that we all definitely need to do. Make sure your team are together, and make sure you've got the right people in your life. I'm going to play a song that you actually picked.
Yes.
For today, Simply Red, You Make Me Feel Brand New.
Thank you.
So you listening? This is Simply Red, You Make Me Feel Brand New. There you go. That was You Make Me Feel Brand New. That was a choice by Paulette here, who's joined me in the studio. Simply Red. You love that wee song?
I love that song. I have another special lady in my life, my friend Angie, and that is our song when we are drinking, having our drinking sessions, and it's like, let's play our song, let's end the night. So when the neighbourhood hears that song, they think, thank God, them two are going to bed now.
That's your finale song?
That's our finale song. We love it.
Everybody has a starting and a finale song, don't
yes.
they? So Paulette, we know each other from the caravan.
We do.
We had some crack
We
at the
did.
Caravan. And it's coming into that season again. We're coming up to Easter time and springtime. And
maybe the quads can come out and we'll get on our date.
Kayaks.
Yes.
All sorts of things. And you're like myself, you love a good egg and onion sandwich.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
And a packet of potato, cheese and onion.
And thank God Jay's the only one that makes them when it's not awake.
That's right, they're funeral sandwiches.
Yes.
And I introduced you to chicken and grape sandwiches.
You did.
So I did.
You did, and they're still the talk of the house.
So if anybody's out there listening, what is the most absurd sandwich you've ever had, whether it be at a wake or a funeral or a wedding or a tea party? You can WhatsApp us on 077 561 614 56. Now, I've heard of Mars bars and apple sandwiches. Paulette, I haven't tried them, and I don't think I've had a deep fried Mars bar now.
No.
I had it in Glasgow, and I tried it, but I love a wee Mars bar, but that was just too much.
Definitely.
So it was. So Paulette's telling us about herself and a wee bit about her life, and I'm going to tell you before she talks again how I view Paulette. Paulette is somebody who started off very, very early days. Was she got divorced and started off as a single parent, and brought up her son at the same time, managed to purchase a house and forge a career for herself, and also look after lots of other people in your family. And then over the years, Paulette, you suffered a lot of loss, we know that. And we can maybe talk about some of those experiences. But at a very young age, you lost a brother. And you were actually there at the time and all of those things. But here you are today. And as we said, you know, our life experiences actually hone us. So we can't, sometimes it's not always good to look back and feel really upset and really annoyed, whilst that's okay because you're allowed to do that and it's understandable. But at the same time, sometimes dig deep inside and see the type of person that it actually has forged you to be is always a good idea. So you tell us a bit about, over the years, Paulette, how you found your feet when you first came, because I know you were in England, you came back here, and how you found your feet, and did you have help from your family or friends, or was there any particular person that really was helpful to you?
And I think it's a really good topic because we do have a lot of single mums out there, and you know how each mum wants to navigate her life with her child, whether they want to be a stay-at-home mum or they want to be a mum that wants to go to work. You know, whatever decision they make is the right one for them. When it was me, I wanted to go to work because I knew that I was only 22, 23, and I didn't want to miss the boat on anything. So I had this, if I stay out of work too long, I'm never going to get back into it. You know, I'm never going to get back in. I'll miss that boat because I'll not have enough experience. I also wanted to be the type of mummy that my son would look at and go, my mummy goes to work and my mummy, you know, pays to keep the roof over my head. I wanted to pay a mortgage and not pay rent to the housing executive. I wanted, you know, I wanted to create that sort of foundation for me and to invest my money in something. And that's what I did. And I was very fortunate that a lot of single mums will think of their life to be very lonely, or, you know, for me, it wasn't a lonely time. I was very fortunate with my mummy and daddy. Not only did they help me out, they kind of stepped in and became and helped me parent. You know, my James still calls my daddy Da. You know, he is his daddy figure in his life because that's what they did. They are the ones that said to me, go you out and go to work. We will look after him. And I had to work full time because it took a full time job. Being 23, being in a junior role, I didn't earn a lot of money. So, you know, when I got paid and paid my bills, there wasn't that much left, you know, and so that was probably the biggest challenge of being a single parent. You know, I don't ever recall receiving any help from government or anything like that. You know, it probably would have been better for me to be unemployed and receive benefits and stuff, but I just wouldn't have been happy. It wouldn't have been good for my mental health.
I think everybody's different, aren't they?
Everybody's different.
Yes, I think for me as well, I know I like to keep busy because obviously what I do, my job really is at the weekends, and I like to keep busy during the week and make sure that I have things that keep my mind occupied and keep my brain
securing a future for
going.
yourself as well.
But there are some single parents out there who simply can't, either because their child is, their needs are so demanding of them, or they've got more than one child, and I can understand that. So it's not exactly for everybody, but if you have the drive and the need and the want, it is possible, and you're a testament to that.
Absolutely.
You come back and you're on your own, and yes, you had your family, but at the same time, it takes you to have the want and the drive to do it.
Absolutely. And I think one of the other biggest challenges is as a single parent, and for me, what it was is when my kids start to grow up with a missing parent, even though he had everything he needed from family support and everything else, there is still a missing parent there. And he's still going to grow up and think, who am I and where have I stemmed from and where have I came from? And I was just so nervous about those conversations happening.
But that your case is slightly different from most, because his father wouldn't be in his life.
His father wasn't in his life. His father lived in England, and I did go across to England because I believe that connection's important.
Yes.
To try and maintain some sort of relationship with the rest of the family, and it was that person's choice to be the absent parent, even though he was not a nice person.
You didn't cut the ties. You didn't say that's it.
Absolutely
like
not.
a lot of us can in situations, you know,
and probably feel that we need to as well.
Yeah.
Where he, you know, again, he was not a nice person, and that was the big challenging thing for me, is when he grows up and he starts to ask those questions. And my mummy and daddy did not like this person. If he was in my life, he would have needed to look out for my dad if he had got him, because he was not nice to me at all. But I used to always say to my mum and dad, when James gets to the age and they ask questions, you're never ever allowed to talk negative about his daddy.
Yes.
I just do not want to be that mum, and I don't want to put those thoughts in my kid's head. I thought, I don't care, we just say that both of us were too young and, you know, to be together to have a child. He wasn't, you know, mature enough, and we decided it was best that we weren't together.
And that's right, because sometimes in life, you know, I was married, when I got married at first, I was married quite young as well. And I think as well, we're not fully developed, no matter how grown up we think we are, how switched on we think we are, and how wise to the world. I really don't think you have to be sort of towards your late 20s before I think you really start to know the person that you are, because you need to experience the world and experience life.
100%. And James did start asking those questions, you know, when he came to the hard questions, you know, that I want to know, and the searching through Facebook and wanting to find him. And, you know, John was amazing through all of this. He was the one that kind of said, you're going to have to let go here. You're going to have to guide him through it.
That's John, your husband?
John, my husband. And John then sat with him and supported him. And I actually showed John how to find him, and then John showed James how to find him, so then that James could make his own mind up as a young man. He would, and you know, he could meet him, he could talk to him, whether it would be on Facebook or social media or telephone calls. And he did have those early conversations with him, and he did find out what he was like for himself, rather than me planting any negativity in his head.
What was the impact on you like then? What was the feelings that you were feeling at that time when he was connecting with his father, who hadn't been in his life? But how did you feel about that?
I felt sick to my stomach, to be honest with you.
What made you feel like that? What was the reason?
I just didn't want this violent man back in my life.
Okay, because it was a DV.
It was like that. He had no respect for women, and I also think I felt really embarrassed that I allowed myself to be in a relationship like that, and I didn't want James to see that his mummy was this weak person somewhere along her early life either.
That's how you felt then, but that's not how you see it now, because
absolutely not.
I know that you realise
it's a vulnerability.
It wasn't your fault.
No.
And anyone in that situation, it's not.
No.
And it's also very difficult sometimes to see what's going on.
Yes.
Sometimes it takes someone from the outside looking in to be able to tell you, or point it out to you.
Yeah.
And also, if you were very young and getting into a relationship like that, you know, sometimes your decisions are driven by your emotions. So, you know, if you really love the person, then you don't want to upset them. And I think we make excuses.
We do. And I also think when we're that age, many years ago, people were a lot more religious. You know, like my mummy would have been very religious. And with me being the only girl, I was always put on this pedestal as well, and I kind of thought, oh my goodness, I've got pregnant, I've made my bed, I'm going to have to lie in it, you know, I'm going to have to try and make this work. So I kind of felt forced to try the relationship out, you know, whereas I would bring up my daughter totally different, you know, and my sons as well, if they're in a relationship that's not working, because it's a very strong thing to do, to end it.
Is that something that you would teach your children, you know, that it's not shameful if the relationship doesn't work out, and it's okay if you're not happy to say you're not happy, and it is okay if you need to walk away.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you know, these are the qualities that you need to look for in a partner. And then you're guiding them with that as well.
Yeah.
And also, never be ashamed. You can come and talk to me if, you know, you are feeling like that at all.
100%. And I also think when you start out in a relationship, it can be, you know, relationships with other people, they can be the nicest of people. But when your journey continues, people can go down different paths. And then your personalities change and you're no longer that much anymore. And sometimes it's not a lot to do with this person wasn't nice and that person wasn't nice. But when you're in a relationship that you're not happy in, people can change. And being unhappy can bring out the worst in you as well. And, you know, and then you start to kind of show traits in yourself and not recognize yourself. So to me, it's important that when you know that you've got to that stage that you cannot make this relationship work, that you should get yourself out of it or end that relationship, you know, but try and do it in a respectful way as well. But surround yourself with people that's going to support you.
And, you know, the great thing is that you did, and you are just absolutely bossing life right now.
Yeah.
I am going to play Step by Step. This is another
a good woman's
song
song
that you've chosen, Whitney Houston. So we're going to play Step by Step Whitney Houston, and we'll be right back with you after this one. There we go. That's Step by Step Whitney Houston, and that was a song chosen by one of my guests today, Paulette Pinkerton.
One of my favourite songs by Whitney.
We're just having a great wee chat about the transformation coming from where Paulette came as a single parent to her having a career and building and coming through all of that. We're just being joined as well by the lovely Suzanne Chalkley.
Hello, I am delighted to be here.
And I was with you, Suzanne, down at your
Clinic.
In Armagh.
Well, yes, just outside Gosford Forest Park, near Market Hill, so that's where I'm based.
So we'll come back to that and be able to tell everybody what went on and what we did. But it was very, very interesting, very enlightening and very intriguing. And I have a lot of people hanging on the edge to see what the results are and what happened.
Me being one of them.
Yes. So a lot of people are very interested in what happened when we went down, Suzanne. Because I will say I went down quite sceptical of what could this be, but honestly, I was so glad I did and came away with a fountain of knowledge. It was great.
That's what it's all about, taking control of your health.
That's it, taking control of ourselves. And we're talking about that with Paulette here, taking control of ourselves. Paulette, you were able to get a handle on your life and get yourself together. Yeah. We'll just jump a little bit forward, because we will come back to the loss throughout your life, but I just want to put the positive side on it now. Yeah. Because you have a wonderful husband at home, John.
I do, yes.
And John is such an amazing guy, and he is somebody you could just call up, either if you are, but especially John, you can just call him up anytime, day or night, and especially Paulette, you always volunteer him.
His services, I pimp him out.
So if there's anything wrong, Paulette and I, Suzanne, you've just joined us, but Paulette and I know each other from our caravans years ago.
Oh, okay.
And that's how we've met and became really good friends. They're like an extension onto our family. And John is just one of those people that, you know, if you're just happen to say something's broken, Paulette's the first one. Sure, I'll get John to fix that for you.
And they send him out on his way.
She does indeed, and we must say to ourselves, poor John doesn't get a look in, he doesn't get an opportunity to say yes or no.
Yep.
But he just be volunteered, and he does it very willingly.
He does.
Well,
he does.
Does he do it willingly?
He does.
A lot of the times. He looks like he is, but we don't know what's going on behind the doors. So, Paulette, jump forward now. You met John through your work.
Yes, he worked for a competitor company of ours.
To do with the stock exchange?
To do with the stock exchange. Way back at the time, I worked for the New York Stock Exchange, and John had worked, he was actually in Northern Ireland as an expat for a company called CME. Mm-hmm. And it was a kind of a women in business night, is where we kind of first ever got to talk to each other or you know each other. I was there with a group of women at a women in business event, and he was there with his company. And I don't think it was about a year after that or so, you know, until we kind of met again. And I do firmly believe that God works in mysterious ways. I think he drops people into our lives when they need to be there. And at that time, as you know, when I was going through my divorce, and I had lost my mummy the year before that, and John had been on that journey a few years before me. So we kind of, it started off as a friendship thing, where, you know, somebody speaking about their past experiences from the male's point of view. And I think when you start off a relationship as a friendship, it gives you a really good solid foundation, you know, because you're starting it by knowing each other and stuff like that. But our kind of relationship couldn't really take a slow approach, you know, slowly going down the line, because his expat visa was running out, and he'd already been here for nearly 5 years, and he was been transitioned back to Chicago, which is where he was from. And we didn't really know what was going to happen. And I think at the time I thought, you know, long distance relationships are not going to work. And because he had made me so happy, I thought, I'm just going to enjoy this happiness when I can get it. You don't get it while you can, even if it's only going to last, you know, a short period of time. And when he kind of had to leave, because he had to leave when your expat visa is up, you have to leave the country. And then, you know, he couldn't really come back in again for work or nothing like that, because he wouldn't have had a work visa. And we'd already actually booked to watch Lionel Richie. Lionel Richie was coming in the February. So John had come back with the intention of staying here for a week so that we could still go and see Lionel Richie. And he ended up staying for like 3 months. And then we kind of knew that, you know, we wanted to be together, and no matter what it took, we were going to make it work.
And there started the process?
Started the process of him flying back and forward, you know, and then he had to sell houses, and he took a redundancy package from CME because there was no point in setting up roots there or looking for other jobs there, until we decided how we were going to get him back.
And how long did it take you, Paulette, from the start of the application for the visa? Because you got married in Vegas, then you had to come back here and register the marriage.
We did, and it just took a long time really looking into how this whole process was going to work. It was very, very frightening, really, really frightening, joining all of these online forums and stuff like that. And the easiest thing for us to do was for me to go to America and marry him there. And he had already got a really good relationship with my dad. So it meant that I was going to have to go over without my family to get married. And that was fine. I'd been there, done it, didn't want to do the big, massive wedding anymore. It was what was important to us.
And how long was the process then from the start of applying for the visa to the end?
I think it takes about 6 months.
How long did it take you guys? Because I think you were battling.
We did. We fast tracked it and stuff like that. And the visa just doesn't happen in one thing. It's in stages. So even when we got the marriage visa, which was Megan over there, we paid a lot of money to fast track it. We actually got a lawyer as well, so that we weren't doing this on ourselves. And we got him back. We got the visa process quite quickly, but there has to be a 6-month paperwork gathering of evidence and stuff like that. So I had to be his sponsor when he comes here. I had to earn a certain type of money. We have to prove that he's not going to be going on to benefits, that he can afford to be here.
That he could sustain
himself. It takes about 6 months of paperwork in preparation for that.
And in finality, was it 6 months or was it years?
Well, we had got him back with the first visa. Then just after the Christmas, we had got married in November, but that visa then only is for 2 years or under 2 years, and then you have to do the whole process all over again, and that happens so many times. So he's now on indefinite leave to remain, so he can now apply for Irish passports and stuff like that. But it takes years. It takes over 5 years for you to get to that stage.
So five years.
It was a long road, and during that process, then, you know, for a lot of it, until we get him over and get him into work and get him that visa, he can't take employment here either. You know, you're not allowed to be employed. So it was a very challenging road, but it was one that we were determined that we were going to do.
And thankfully it's worked out.
And
really
thankfully,
well.
Thankfully it's worked out. But I can totally appreciate how stressful it is for people that are in that boat.
Suzanne's here, so this is great because you and I both are. I'm perimenopausal, and you're going through menopause as well. And we can ask Suzanne loads of questions.
We absolutely
She has lots of answers and she's lots of tips and tricks. But your menopause journey, how long have you...
I think I'm getting into menopause journey, and I can't believe that I've been giving this a lot of thought all week. I would say maybe 5 years.
Okay.
And I call menopause the intruder. I look at it like this intruder that just comes into your life and steals things from you and messes up with your head.
You had a really hard time at the start.
I really, really did. And even when it did start, I didn't realise that I was in a stage of perimenopause, with heart palpitations, and then, little bits further on, walking with a limp because my hip was sore, and which was impacting my, going out and doing my walks, to having joint pain starting in my elbows and my wrists, so it was impacting at me trying to do weights and stuff like that in my wee weights class, and all of that I could actually cope with. I'm like, I can actually cope with this. I think it's when it starts affecting your mental health, and I think a lot of women can relate to this, when you've got the mood, the low moods. And that was the point that I couldn't cope, because I'm a very happy person and a very bubbly person, and I don't like to feel like that, but not understand why I feel like that. It's okay if you think I feel sad today because, but when you're feeling anxious and you
don't know why,
and you don't know why, and you don't want to get out of bed, and you actually feel I can't do my job anymore. I'm actually going to have to leave my job because I can't cope. And it was through just collaborating with other women that was in the same age as me, position as me, maybe further on down the line, that would say, you're actually in the menopause. And I thought, well, what's sore joints and what's a heart palpitation? What's that all got to do with it?
Because we don't realise it.
We don't realise it. And I was directed at all the Davina McCall videos, everything that she was doing, raising awareness. And I just couldn't believe it. I really, really couldn't.
And it is thanks to people like her for bringing it to the forefront.
100%. And with all respect to our GPs and stuff like that, I know that they have a hard time. I just didn't really feel supported. When I was going on my HRT, it would be fine for a while, and then a big dip, and then to the stage where they wanted to put me on depressant tablets. And thankfully I had listened to the Davina McCall and other professional women who actually left their jobs because of how they were feeling. That's not the answer. It's all to do with the amount of estrogen and stuff like that.
And this is where Suzanne, we've got Suzanne Chalkley in the studio, and Suzanne runs a clinic called Health Direct NI, isn't that correct, Suzanne?
Yes.
And Suzanne is a health and wellness coach, as well as what is the other
title?
Well,
my original training was in nutritional medicine, so it was all to do with your health through diet, lifestyle, and I'd been doing that for years and helping people lose weight, and that also can be a bit of a challenge when you're going through menopause. Just you discover fat where it never used to be before, and it seemed to just kind of slowly, you wake up one day and there it is. So I had been spending years helping people with their weight loss journey, as well as just overall health and wellness. But I'm a great one for the universe and manifesting and putting out there what you want. And I felt I needed something that was going to be a little bit more in depth. And so I really wanted something that could look inside the body and tell me what was going on. So rather than, you can go to the doctors and blood tests, but quite often when you do those too, the blood test, you can be within the range that the doctors are measuring, but it still is not the right range for you. So there is no one size menopause, there's no one size diet, there's no one size program that fits everybody.
Yes, because Suzanne, sorry, we the other night I have been regularly tested for diabetes and things, and the other evening when I was at your clinic, it had flagged up and you had said, look, your sugar levels, you need to be careful. It's not currently within the parameters of what the GP or the doctor would set to say you're pre-diabetic, you just need to watch yourself, but it is still quite high. So it's good information to know, to arm yourself so that you can actually head it off before it even comes to a point.
That's right.
And that's what you do as well.
Yeah, well, I think the important thing is people need to understand your body is designed to heal itself. And the other thing, just going back on your point with the menopause, it is a very upsetting time for lots of women because you're in control, everything's going grand, and then all of a sudden the wheels fall off and different things happen. But to understand too that it is a natural process. We call it the trifecta. There's kind of 3 stages in a woman's development. There's the puberty, the periods, etc. There's then your reproductive years, and then you move on to the 3rd, which is menopause, where essentially it's where we become more, wise. wise, the old crone, as they say, and we become wiser, so we can then feed information down to the younger generations to help them. Unfortunately, we do go through some awful times, let's be truthful, for certain people, but your body is designed to balance, but you have to give it the right things, and your diet is really important in that. But back to what you were talking about, actually, is the bioresonance machine that I've got. It scans the body for imbalances. So there can be imbalances in your thyroid, which will not be picked up in a blood test, but it'll either show that the organ is just not firing on all cylinders, which can lead you to feeling very, very tired. Your hair can start feeling sort of thin, brittle, just losing, it's just lackluster. And the amount of people come to me, a lot of women come to me, and when I'm doing the consultations, try and get a bit of an idea of what is going on. 9 out of 10 times they'll say, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I just don't feel great. I just don't feel right.
And that a lot of the times with the menopause, that is how we feel.
Absolutely.
There's something wrong, but we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But we know we don't feel well.
Yeah.
That's it. And, it is a process that you're going through, but there are things that you can do to help naturally balance your hormones through nutrition and staying away from certain foods. Because, when you're younger, I mean, you've probably known yourself. Years ago, you could eat whatever you want and it didn't really have much effect. All of a sudden, you hit your sort of mid-40s. And
You look at it and you're bloated.
that's it. You just look at it and it just jumps onto your hips.
Yeah.
So things like carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are anything that's not meat, fish, eggs and cheese, essentially. So it's really anything else is classed as a carb. But what people don't realise is the hidden sugars. So I've had loads of ladies come to me and say, I don't understand. I'm I just can't shift weight. I'm eating well. I'm, not overeating. I don't take sugar. And then all of a sudden I start going through the diet and they would have maybe a cereal in the morning. That's 7 teaspoons of sugar. And then they're going on to, well, I have a sandwich at lunchtime, but it's brown bread. For every slice of bread, there's 4 teaspoons of sugar. So if you have 2 bits of bread and make a sandwich, there's 8 teaspoons of sugar.
And how much sugar generally should we be having a day?
Well, in order to maintain our weight and to feel good and keep our blood sugar levels stable, the equivalent of about 60 to 80 grams of carbohydrates, which breaks down to about 12 teaspoons of sugar. So when you do that, your body then is using your own stored body fat as a source of fuel. And so people have no idea. So they're all low fat this, low fat that. But what they don't realise is the
hidden sugars.
The food industry have made a fortune on low fat.
Yeah.
Absolute fortune. What they've done is they've taken out fat, but they've put carbohydrates, sugars and artificial sweeteners in its place.
Wow.
So once we realise where the hidden sugars are, people can start reducing them. And one of the key things to help reduce your cravings, because that's another thing, often people say, I just don't seem to have the control of myself, is high quality omega supplements will naturally stop you feeling hungry, stop you craving. Now, there are other little plant extracts that are great as well. There's glucomannan, which is from the konjac root, and it doesn't have any interference with your heart, your energy, anything like that. It just helps to stop you craving and make you feel fuller. So there are things that you can take that are natural that will ease that craving and then make it easier for you to start taking control. And that's what it is. People have just lost the control of themselves.
We have talked the last few weeks, Suzanne, with regards to the menopause and good supplements that women should be taking. And obviously of a certain age, so like the menopausal supplements. I myself, I said to you the other night, I hadn't taken all my vitamins that I normally take, that I've been taking for a year now. I hadn't taken them for like 2 weeks. And I actually started to feel slightly different. Believe it or not, I don't notice when I'm taking them because I'm just taking them. But actually when I stopped taking them there for 2 weeks, I kind of started to feel a bit like as if I was going over a wee hill. But after seeing you the other night, I got home and I fixed them all and I got myself all sorted. You recommended definitely the omega-3, 6 and 9s.
Yes, well, omegas, the most important is omega-3. and that needs to be a higher quantity. Funny enough, one of the key issues that women experience with with menopause are the night sweats and the hot flushes.
The tropical moments, we call them.
Power surges. I like to call them power surges. One of the key things is if you have a quality omega supplement. Now, I brought one for you to have a wee look at today that
Great.
I went on. I'll be 60 next year, and I started the menopause when I was about 46.
Wow.
Doesn't look 60, so she doesn't
It's
look
an
great.
exquisite looking lady.
Oh, stop. I'm going to stay here all day and listen to this. But I was about 46 when I first started going into menopausal symptoms. But the thing, and a lot of women experience this too, if you're on the Mirena coil, sorry for the men listening to this because they're probably thinking,
it's probably
oh
mostly
Lord.
women.
Can I just say
They're
that's
used to
me?
this.
Yes, okay. If you're on the Mirena coil, you really don't know exactly when you're going through the menopause because you usually don't have a menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
Okay, so that happened to me. And I thought I wrote actually an audiobook all about menopause, and it's about wise words for women in their 50s.
Is that the name of the book?
Yes,
Wise words for women in their 50s?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's if you. I know that when I Google my name, it all comes up, but I wrote it as I say, I wrote it quite some time ago when I was going through the process myself, and what I find was the hot flushes were the kind of my a wake up that I am in menopause here, but it was unreal. The heat you cannot describe to anybody until you go through it. It's like somebody breaks one of those glow sticks. Not that I ever went to raves because there was none where I lived out in the country.
I was too well behaved. My mum was listening, by the way.
Yeah,
I was too well
okay,
behaved
didn't
to
go to
raves.
those things. But what I imagine is breaking a glow stick, and just the heat stems from the
core.
the core of your body. But there's other elements to your chakras, and people don't realize that the chakras all need to be in alignment as well, and they can go totally out of kilter when you're going through menopause, which can make you feel less connected to yourself and to other people. You can go through this dreadful feeling of feeling a little lost, and nobody really understands you, and nobody really gets what stage you're at unless you're talking to other women who are going through the same thing.
Yes, and it is hard to get defined and to explain to other people, and especially to our other halves, our husbands or boyfriends or people around us. It is hard, and unless they're going through it, it is hard for them to understand, because it is a bit of a taboo subject as well for men, isn't it? I'm going to play a wee song, and we definitely come back to this, Suzanne. This is More Than a Woman, the Bee Gees. There you go, that was the Bee Gees, More Than a Woman. Now you're listening to Pulse Online Radio, and this is Let's Do Brunch with Alex J. We have a WhatsApp number. It is 077 561 61456. That's 077 561 61456. If you'd like to get involved in the conversation that's happening today, we have the lovely Paulette Pinkerton and Suzanne Chalkley from Health Direct NI, and we are, of course, are talking about menopause at the moment. I had a bioresonance scan done on Tuesday night at Suzanne's clinic. We're going to talk about that, what that entailed and what the results were. But also Suzanne's given us really good information at the minute about women going through the menopause. And Paulette, during the break there, asked a question about what is the difference?
What is the definition of?
What is the definition of a hot
hot
flush?
flush? Because I've had it wrong.
And Suzanne explained it to us.
Yeah.
Well, would you like me to explain it again
Yes,
for the
please.
listeners? But as I said before, we're all unique, and for some women, a hot flush is just that feeling of heat. So starting from the core and moving up, you feel it. You get flushed, you feel warm. There's other people that get really, and the sweat starts to trickle down their back. Now, a hot flush can be just that little feeling of warmth. Just your temperature rises, and night sweats are different. You can have a night sweat without being in full hot flush, and it's ridiculous because the sweats can actually be cold on your skin. So two different things. So you can be roasting hot, or you can just have just a mild bit of heat. You can just feel a little bit warmer, and it can come in little waves, or it can be really intense.
I'm just really glad to hear that, because when people were asking me, do you have hot flushes? Like, nope, not having those, thank God.
Because you were thinking that was when the buckets of sweat.
I kind of thought it's only when there's steam flying out of your hair and your hair soaking. So I actually am a victim of hot flushes. I'm just thankfully not getting them as severe as some other women.
And before we went to the song there, Suzanne, we were talking about supplements and different things that you can take to help. Suzanne, do you have a top list of things that you would highly recommend that we should be looking at taking as women going through the menopause, or at an age pre-menopause? Should we be starting to take supplements from an earlier age? Because I only really started to take my supplements probably in the last year, because it was starting to lose weight, and I wanted to make sure I did it right, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing out on any nutrients and things like that. So is there a recommended age you would say?
Do you know what? The most important supplement, and every human being needs it from an infant, because our diets really are quite deficient in essential fats, essential fatty acids. They're called essential because your body can't make them. It has to come from your diet or supplements. Now, unless you're eating lots of oily fish, nuts, seeds, you're really not getting omegas naturally. So, and because your body can't make it, it's going to draw it from your own natural resources. And guess where they are? Your brain. So this is where people get this brain fog, or with kids with behavioural problems and attention, they have lack of attention. The first thing, and it has been proven, by increasing essential fatty acids into a child's diet will help with their brain development, going through puberty, etc. It also helps to stop you craving. It's great for your skin, your hair, and your joints. So again, if you're not got the right level of omegas, you can experience joint pain. It would be the single most important.
And that's omega-3.
Yeah, omega-3 is the most important. We tend to get omega-6 within our diet anyway. And so a lot of supplements have a blend of omega-3, then 6, then 9. So they're kind of in that order. But omega-3 is higher quantity. That's what you should always take of the omega-3. And it's really important for cardiovascular health as well. But omega-6, be careful with too much omega-6, because it can cause a bit more inflammation. So that's why our diets were high in grains. And, when people ask me questions about nutrition, I've been saying the same things for 30 odd years. Okay, I haven't changed my outlook on it. I know, because it's kind of core information, tried and tested. Yeah. Unfortunately, with social media now, you get different people, influencers coming up and raving about something, and everybody just jumps on that bandwagon without really realising the whys and the wherefores. So, omegas are really important because our diets tend to be deficient in them. The other supplement that is superb and most people will benefit from is magnesium. But magnesium can come in different forms. My personal favourite is a liquid magnesium. I take a product called nano magnesium. So it's in a big litre bottle, big heavy bottle with a violet coloured, it's big thick, you could brain somebody if you hit them over the head with a really heavy big bottle.
I don't know if I should have that in my house at the minute.
Well, wait to the menopause. Sort of
especially if John tries to close that window at night time and I'm feeling hot.
Here, what did I tell you? You're lucky to have a John. I'm listening to all this description of John. I'm going, where's my John? Send him,
John.
Send him my way.
John, have you got any mates?
Yes, please. On the way.
Half the nation will be looking for jobs.
But yes, magnesium, nanomagnesium, because when you take it, it absorbs straight into your body. It doesn't have to. It's nanoparticles of magnesium.
So I do take magnesium. I know you do, Paulette. I do take magnesium. They're magnesium capsules I take.
Yeah. No, they're going to be okay, but if you want the optimum, nanomagnesium is the best. So omegas, nanomagnesium. Collagen's good, but you need to have all 5 types of collagen.
Yeah. So what are the 5 types of collagen? collagen?
Well, they're named 1 to 5.
Okay.
They're different sources, but
'Cause I
you know,
like there's bovine collagen and there's
there's marine collagen.
Yeah.
You can also
Okay,
have plant-based. You know, but there's
but
5
each
different.
one of those, so like bovine would have 5 different types of collagen.
No,
or-
there's 5 different types
Okay.
that should be in the one product. You can get, there's different ones out there, but
Suzanne, you supply some of these things?
I do. I have my business is Health Direct NI. There is a website, and it's healthdirectni.com, and there's a section for all the services and the treatments that I do, but also a shop with all the different supplements as well.
So we can buy them online.
Yes, you
And
can.
these are the supplements that you recommend. They're not. It's not like if you go into a shop and they're sponsored by a company
No,
or.
I have, what I've done is curated a small
The best
range of
of the
things that
best.
I know is very, very good. There's another product that is unreal, especially if you're going through any kind of emotional traumas, or you're maybe feeling a bit depressed. It's nano gold. It's minute particles of gold in that liquid solution, and it is superb. I mean, I've got clients with Parkinson's, anybody with any neurological or Alzheimer's, beginning of Alzheimer's, just this forgetfulness. So adding omegas with nano gold, people find amazing benefits. So you can be taking too many things as well. So just be careful you don't go into shop and start, I need this, and this. I mean, in wintertime, we need vitamin D3, absolutely. For women, you're better having the vitamin D3 with vitamin K as well. And the other thing that I would suggest is if your energy levels are very low, the B group vitamins, the B12, that's very good as well.
And also, so yes, I take a K2 D3
Yes, that's what I'm
supplement
talking
along
about,
with
yeah.
the magnesium.
Uh-huh.
The other thing as well is the multivitamins that you buy off the shelf in supermarkets and obviously big chemists and other shops. I have discovered, because we buy these multivitamin things, but actually when you look at the back of the breakdown of the what's recommended daily allowance and actually what's in them, sometimes there's only trace
Yes.
of the actual thing that you're. So
You know what?
it's a waste of money.
It's anything else. You get what you pay for. The raw ingredients that are in supplements, and I've been sort of in the nutritional business for decades, and you know there've been different things that have come along. I thought, oh, that looks quite good, but then you know companies then are making money out of it, and they'll almost like water stuff down. You know, they'll fill in what they're supposed to do legally, but they don't do an awful lot. So, you know, I'd be more inclined to advise people a little bit more on their diet, what they should be eating, because at the end of the day, you know, that's what you've got for the rest of your life. We eat food, and so it's making sure you eat the right things. But supplementing, most important with omegas. Magnesium's great again for any kind of anxiety, depression, restless legs, and difficulty sleeping. But equally, if you're really struggling to sleep, a little melatonin spray occasionally can help just knock that horrible time of thrashing around the bed where you can't get over to sleep.
And melatonin, is that not what's in your skin?
That's melanin. So melatonin is a hormone that your body produces to help you go to sleep, and through anxiety. Now, you know, you could get a study that says, oh, too much melatonin is not good for you either. So it's just almost a helping hand. You know, when you're struggling, rather than going on to sleeping tablets, then I don't recommend those. But I would say try these, and meditation, breathing techniques, all of these things all work to help.
And you do a course, Suzanne, for people of different for different things. Do you do a menopause course?
I don't currently, but I have done years ago. When I wrote the book, it was kind of like it was doing a program. But I have a lot of clients who, going through the menopause, come to me for nutrition advice. But I start with the scan, because I need to find out what's going on internally. And a very good friend of mine, and you'll know who it is, described my scan as like, you know, it's like having a car and popping the bonnet and able to look inside without physically doing that, obviously. And so I always thought that's a great description. And, you know, so I can have a look at everything. Now, cardiovascular health is really important. we look after it, and omegas are important for that. But there is also a supplement that I get from a doctor in America. It is unbelievable. It's called Cardio for Life. So even if you don't, the doctor hasn't diagnosed you with blood pressure problems or anything specific, if you are finding yourself not as energetic, having maybe little palpitations, just not feeling 100%, a course of Cardio for Life can just set you up, because it's got a breakdown of all the vitamins and minerals and trace elements that you need. But the key ingredient in it is called L-arginine. Now, L-arginine is an amino acid, which is part of proteins, but it helps with the transportation of oxygen. And quite a lot of foggy brain is because there's not enough oxygen getting up into the brain tissue.
Well, mine's is not getting up at all.
Sometimes mine doesn't reach that either. I'm going to play a wee song just to take a slight break here. This is Neon Moon, and this is the Demi Moore version, not the Brooks and Dunn version. I found this the other day, and I really love it. And that was Neon Moon, Demi Lee Moore. A couple of messages. Marcus has messaged in and said, I need a John. I'm looking at John too. I'm free to a good home and mostly house trained. And I've had another couple of messages saying they need a John as well. So we might have to do a dating program. So if the bosses are listening in, we may have to do some kind of matchmaking show where we get people hooked up. So we're joined by Suzanne Chalkley of Health Direct NI and Paulette Pinkerton. The WhatsApp number is 077 61456. If you'd like to join in the conversation at the minute, Suzanne's given us great advice to do with the menopause and supplements. Now, Suzanne, you've just handed us a little book about the female hormones. Really good to have. We were just saying there in the break that we spend that much time educating ourselves about so many things, but we forget about ourselves, our actual own bodies. And you were saying, Suzanne, you have a story about someone who was in hospital.
Yes. The story really is more about how important understanding what we're consuming and its effect on our health. And this is not any disrespect on the medical profession, but a client had brought her son to me who had been in hospital for 5 days with a suspected heart attack. Now, he was 24 and had been in for 5 days, done all the tests. They had said he's had a heart attack, but then was in for 5 days, was released with no real definitive why or where, how it happened. So when she booked in and brought him to me, and I do a full consultation, first of all, ask questions and get an idea of your symptoms. And before I even did the bioresonance scan, which checks the internal aspect of the body, I asked, do you take any energy drinks? Now, there was silence for a few seconds, and the mother stared at him, nudged him, and she said, go on, tell her. And he goes, yes, I do. And I said, well, how many do you drink a day? He was drinking 7, and I won't say the brand, but he was drinking 7 energy drinks a day. And when he was in hospital, not once was he asked by doctors or by nurses, this is according to the guy himself. So nobody asked him. And yet that would have been a critical component of why he ended up in hospital in the first instance.
Wow.
So we have to take a little bit more self-responsibility of what we're putting into our bodies, and they do have an impact. And, whether it's weight loss, energy, etc., we need to know what we're putting into our bodies. And the food industry isn't helping. No. It's a multi-billion-pound industry, and they make a fortune by bringing out all these things that are low fat or, vegan or, whatever it is that fits in with what the marketing looks. But you need to know what you're putting into your body.
And a reoccurring thing, Suzanne, that keeps coming up, and just as you're saying that, a reoccurring thing that keeps coming up on these shows, and when I talk to anybody about lots of diagnoses that are given today and different illnesses and things like that, and I think we talked about it the other night very, very briefly, is that years ago, your mum or your granny or whatever made food, and it was potatoes and carrots and maybe a bit of meat or whatever you had. There was no ready meals or fast food. I mean, I think the only fast food we ever had was once a week, and maybe from the chip shop you got a fish or a pasty or something like that. But there was no real fast foods. There was no highly processed foods, you know, going into a big shop and buying complete meals and pizzas the way that you can buy them now and different things. Do you think that a lot of the high processed foods are having an effect on us?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. If you go into, you know, think of your own supermarket. You know, say, for example, it's a big supermarket, there'd be average, 26 aisles. There's really only 4 aisles with normal food,
That's
natural
right.
food. The rest of it's all processed.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, high levels of, you know, refined carbohydrates is just, it's totally destroying.
Salt.
Yeah, but well, now salt is important, but the salt I take is Celtic sea salt.
Yes, I've been reading lately about the types of salt.
Yeah, I mean, no, table salt, you know, your, and I'll use the brand sacks of salt, throw it in the bin. It's just rubbish. It's not good for you. But a little bit of Celtic sea salt. And the other thing, and this might just be a little controversial, but when somebody ends up with palpitations or heart, you know, one of the things that when they go into hospital, they're put onto saline drip. What's saline? Salt.
Yeah.
And yet we've been conditioned in the last 30 years that salt is so bad for you.
No, but you do need it, because I know that my dad years ago, he said, because he would have been in like to martial arts and things, and he said that they would have taken a saltwater drink.
Yes.
Is there a name for that now? Is it ketones or something, or is it?
Well,
is
no, not ketones. There are drinks, but they're like a salt.
Isotonic.
Isotonic.
Yes.
Well, they're more of the little minerals.
Okay.
But no, just, you know, putting a little bit of Celtic sea salt in water is good if you're, you know, especially if you're exercising, because when you sweat. Unless back to the ladies in the menopause, when you're sweating, if you ever tasted your skin, it's salt, so you're losing salt. So Celtic sea salt's very good. Few wee grains under your tongue, or that's the only salt that I would use in cooking. And I'm sounding, if my son was listening now, he's at work, but he'd say, "Mother, when did you last cook?" Because him and his girlfriend moved in with me, and it's fabulous because they're both great cooks. So I've become incredibly lazy. But yes.
I'd say you're everything but lazy, Suzanne.
Oh, yes. When it comes to the old cooking, because somebody else is doing it. If somebody's doing it for you, why would you go?
Absolutely. They have to
Especially
earn their
if
keep.
they're good at
Oh,
it.
they're really good at it,
And,
yeah.
and you're like me, you like good, Paulette, you're like me, you like good home cooked food.
Yes.
I do. I loved home cooked food, and that's how I was brought up. You know, it was like potatoes. Obviously, I'm not too sure if too many of them's good for you, but it was a type of, you know, and it was always fresh vegetables, you know, chicken and meat and stuff like that. And I am quite worried because I am going to Bangalore next month with work for a week, and I'm an anxious traveller. And I'm kind of thinking, what am I going to eat? Because HP sauce is as spicy and as hot as I'll go. And, you know, I'm a very plain eater. So I don't know if I'm going to have to bring a suitcase of pot noodles or...
Oh, God.
Or what I'm gonna, which are the worst things in the world as
Why
well.
pick that one? No, definitely. You'll be fine. You'll be fine because it'll be... You just ask for less of the spice and, you know... Rice.
I'm sure
You'll
there's a lot of people
something
that
there,
live in Bangalore or from Bangalore that don't eat spicy food.
I'm just a very plain
you
palate
do,
because
yeah.
it's the way we were brought up. Whereas my Daniel would try sushi and he would try.
Yeah, because you're not
spicy
keen
foods.
on fish. You will
No,
eat.
John's just got me eating but
Salmon?
it'll have to be. I wouldn't touch salmon; it's too fishy. Maybe cod, or you know, just something like a nice white fish.
So it's really important that you definitely get your omegas
Definitely.
through another way,
Yep, I've
as
got it wrote
opposed
down.
to
Yes.
yeah, because we eat a lot in our house. We eat a lot of fish.
Yeah.
We would actually probably be more inclined to eat fish than red meats. And red meats just simply because they don't always agree with me.
Yeah.
And pork doesn't agree with me either. So we kind of steer away from the red.
The red.
Now we do have some red meat
Yeah,
now and
not
again.
all the time. It's probably as
but
much as me.
a lot of chicken and fish in our house.
Yes.
And but I'm lucky because we do love seafood. You know, so it means that one meal will do.
A lot.
household.
It'll
Yeah.
take a few boxes for you as well,
Yeah.
and looking after yourself.
Yeah, but definitely the omega-3 for the old brain and everything
it's very
else.
important. There's a supplement. I actually sell couple of different versions of omegas, depends on what their needs are. But if you do have joint pain, the best is a product called Lipronol, and it's from the green-lipped mussels in New Zealand. Lipronol, Liprinol, Lipronol, and it's a very potent omega-3. To be honest, I think it's, on the top of my head, it's about 250 times stronger than flax oil and 300 times better than the normal fish oils. So it comes from New Zealand.
And that's good for inflammation.
Fabulous.
Because I know that my best friend Angie, I think she's starting her early stages of menopause, where she is now having pains in her wrists, which is obviously inflammation. So I may just suggest for her to use that.
No, it's very good. It would be one of the key things. Anybody comes to me with any kind of joint pain, they go on Lipronol. I have one lady who buys 6 boxes at a time because she never wants to risk.
What is the cost like of those things?
They're £30.
And how long does that do?
That'd be a month's supply.
A month's supply.
And you would take 2 capsules a day.
Okay. It isn't. I'm not going to say it's not a cheap way to do it, but it's something that you feel is essential, especially if someone with inflammation.
Listen, you know that there are liquid omegas out there that would cost £54.
Yeah.
You can buy cheapest chips for $7.95, but
maybe it doesn't have everything.
Well, not at all. Wouldn't
and I kind of think when we look at the money that we're wasting and things that we don't really need, or supplements that are not doing us any good, I think it's good to kind of funnel any surplus money that you have into yourself to do it the right way.
And you don't I think sometimes people are taking too many things, because if your body doesn't use it, it's going to excrete it. So
it's not only that. We were talking last week, I think it was, or the week before, we were saying about I never realised that you can actually overdose on vitamins and it can actually make you unwell.
Oh yeah, you have to be. Everything's in balance. I mean, when I look back at my parent. My dad, he was always out working, but when my mum was cooking, she actually cooked in lard. Cooking lard. And that was normal. We grew up, and yet you can't even buy it. I went to try and get lard.
It used to be this white, hard stuff in the frying pan.
And
made the best chips, though.
Absolutely. But the kind of the carnivore type style eating is scientifically proven to be very good for you. So it's all about balance. Whereas we've gone through sort of the last 25 years of it all being plant-based, seed oils, and now we know that it causes lots of inflammation. So the difficulty is, I'll sort of go back to what I started to say at one point, and I always digress anyway, was I've been saying the same things for 30 odd years, but science is kind of goes up and down. It goes one way, and then so it depends on who's paying for the research. And all of a sudden something will come out, and it goes all through social media. Everybody takes that to be truthful, and then years later you find that no, that's not healthy. That causes X, Y, and Z. So it is.
It's a minefield. It really is a minefield.
It absolutely is. You know what? Go back to basics. The pure foods. I mean, years ago, eggs. Great whole food. You get great nutrition in them and great source of protein. Very filling. And then all of a sudden, I remember when I was 15 years ago, it was like, oh, you should only have an egg a week. Like, who came out with that?
I know.
And the other thing as well, you've brought that up because that is something that was in the back of my mind about vegetables. So I was watching something on television, and they actually were giving you scary stories about vegetables, how although they're vegetables, they're not good for you, or this is not good for you. And I'm going, I don't understand that. Now they're saying tomatoes are not good because there's toxins in tomatoes and things like that.
Is it to do with the way they're getting grown now?
I don't know, but it actually would put me off, and I just think, is that right? Is it a case of there's things that are toxins, but yet
to be honest, I think the way things are grown now and all the chemicals that are being used are not ideal. I have a machine in the kitchen called a Kangen water ionizer machine, and I will, whatever fruit and vegetables, I'll wash them in a pH of 11.5, and that dissolves all the oil-based toxins and sprays on them, and you would not believe what comes off tomatoes. Now, I'm not saying this to put people off tomatoes.
Is that to do with pesticides?
And they're all oil based, and the reason they're oil based is when it rains, the oil based, so it doesn't wash off. So even in M&S, I bought tomatoes, M&S, or, organic. I still wash them. There still was a discoloration came off them. So we really don't have control over the food, the sourced food. So
unless you grow it yourself.
Yeah, make it yourself or grow it yourself. But, going to farm shops are brilliant because you're getting sort of the best options there. Or try and go organic when you can. I know it's more expensive, but there's less of all this stuff on them.
Yeah.
The other theory that went around many years ago when I was studying was about our bodies are designed to eat what is genetically what we are used to eating, what grows in our natural, habitat. So, whereas now you can have strawberries all year long. They can come from Egypt, they come from all over the place. But
whether they're in season or not, you can have them.
That's it. And so you can taste the difference in a strawberry.
Yes.
When you have strawberry in summer, it tastes like a strawberry. I bought a punnet of strawberries then. It was maybe when I first came. I was away to Australia for a month. I came back and I bought a punnet of strawberries, and it tasted more like a strawberry than you can imagine.
I think that's what's happening. A lot of things are being grown, not organically and not nor naturally.
Yeah.
And it is distorting the flavour.
Yeah, it is. Also, our gut is so important, people. And that's, again, back to everything, menopause, weight loss, energy, depression, any of these things. Your gut health is really important. And if you knew what was living inside your gut, you wouldn't go to bed with yourself. Because we all have these bacterial parasites that are there to keep everything in balance. But, with gut imbalance, it's called intestinal dysbacteriosis. So I test for that when I do the scan, and there are a number of parasites because we're always traveling. People are going on holiday and come back and wondering why they're, maybe their gut is behaving a little bit awkwardly, run to the toilet or constipated or bloated. And quite often it's an imbalance of parasites. So you need to do a little parasite cleanse and then do corrective probiotics.
So how would you do a parasite cleanse?
There is a product I get from a company in Canada called New Roots, and it's a blend of different herbs, walnut, garlic, cayenne pepper, and you take capsules. You take 2 capsules 3 times a day for 15 days. Then you have a 5-day break, and then you have another 15 days. And basically in that time, should do.
So you would suggest that would be a good thing for me to take before I go off to India then, something like that?
I would take it when you come back, to be honest. You're more likely to bring some more back than you are taking them out there. But yes, doing a parasite cleanse, and that's like a bit of a detox for the bowel, and then put the correct food. But even foods like kiwi fruit, strawberries, etc., those little seeds can get caught in the pockets of the bowel, and that can cause like inflammation, which can give people sort of diverticular type flare-ups. So the great thing is by scanning the body, you know what the problem is, and then I can test for food sensitivities and then give you a definitive stay away from these foods.
I have to say, I'd love you to look under my bonnet.
So
I will look under your bonnet anytime.
We're going to come back and talk about the scan that we did the other evening. And if you've just tuned in, you're listening to Alex J on Let's Do Brunch at Pulse Online Radio. My guests this afternoon in the studio are Paulette Pinkerton and Suzanne Chalkley from Health Direct NI. We're talking all things that are good for you and things that aren't good for you, and especially the menopause. And I had a bioresonance scan done by Suzanne earlier on in the week, and we're going to come back and talk about that very, very soon. This is Flashdance, Irene Cara, just to keep you ticking over. Hello, welcome back. This is Let's Do Brunch with Alex J on Pulse Online Radio. You were listening to Flashdance and Irene Cara, and I'm joined today in the studio by Paulette Pinkerton and also Suzanne Chalkley of Health Direct NI. We're talking all things to do with the health and the menopause and all things about the women. So if you'd like to join in the conversation, You can WhatsApp us on 077 561 61456. That's 077 561 61456. Now, Suzanne,
Yes,
I was down with you at your clinic on Tuesday evening,
you were.
and I had what you call a bioresonance scan.
That's correct.
Can you explain to the listeners and to Paulette what a bioresonance scan is?
I can indeed. Your body is designed to heal itself, and every organ, every cell, every tissue in your body resonates at its own unique frequency. So with tuning forks, have you ever seen somebody with tuning forks? You hit a tuning fork and it sends a frequency out, and then that's how you tune an instrument. Well, we're a very finely tuned instrument. So what the scan does, it sends frequency into your body, measures the body's natural frequency, and it will pinpoint variances. It'll pinpoint if something is out of balance. And then I do corrective frequency to put the balance back in. And also we can look at imbalances within the gut microbiome. You could have, not enough of the good lactic bacillus, or you could have parasites. We can check your thyroid. If your thyroid's out of balance, it's going to have an impact on how you feel. The whole reproductive system, your ovaries, all your endocrine system. So basically, the scan measures everything and gives us a reading, and then I do the corrective work. It takes about an hour and a half by the time we do consultation, do the scan, do the corrective work. And often people find themselves feeling a little bit tired afterwards. Any type of energy healing work, even if somebody went for a Reiki session or energy healing, you can feel a little bit tired afterwards, and it rebalances it. So it helps to kickstart your body into healing itself naturally. Because if you broke your arm, yes, of course, doctors will immobilize it, but it's your arm, it's your body that knits the bone together. But we've forgotten that. We've spent so much time given over to other medical professions to cure me. And what they're doing is often just treating the symptom. So we're looking more at what could be out of balance and helping people to start self-healing.
And the scan itself isn't like a scan you would get done in a hospital. I was expecting, do I lie down on a table? Do I take my clothes off? It's literally, because it is to do with the sound waves.
It's inaudible frequency. Years ago, the machine used to you'd have been holding on to like copper rods, or your feet would be on a copper plate, and that would be putting the frequency in the body. The brand new machines now are so compact, they're brilliant. And I just put a headset on. Now you don't hear anything, but it's there's a little frequency is emitted into your body.
It's like headphones.
Just headphones. They just look like headphones. Mm-hmm. And the frequency is emitted into the body, and the screen that you're sitting in front of will take you through all parts of the body, and it will be a medical picture you see. So it's not like a MRI generating your brain or your heart, but it's a medical picture. But when the frequency goes through, it will plot graphs with colour schemes and different symbols, and that's what I use to interpret the results, and then I know where to go in. But the system also digs deeper. If it finds an imbalance somewhere, it will automatically dig down, even as far as the DNA. Wow. So we can see if, in your case, it was the insulin receptor. Mm-hmm. So that gave me a wee heads up that, we need to be a little bit more mindful of sugars and carbohydrate content, so your body is able to cope. So it can go down to the DNA. It checks anywhere in the body, but what I do is, by talking to the client, first of all, I know what their problems are, their symptoms. And even if the scan didn't go deep enough in a particular organ, I know to override it and dig down naturally. So that's why it takes quite a bit of time.
Yeah. So, although I'd spoken to you and told you, because obviously I suffer with severe arthritis, mm-hmm. and also fibromyalgia, and I told you about those things, but I was very sceptical coming down. How can putting a set of headphones on, and how can that read your body? But my skepticism was quickly dampened down, because you were able to point out things that I hadn't told you.
Yes.
So even though you knew I had bad knees and arthritis, you were able to tell me which knee was worse than the other one.
Yes.
Which the surgeon told me in January, because he's because he told me which knee he's going to start with and the reason. You also were able to show me my heart, because I have a heart condition. You were able to show me, and I didn't tell you what was wrong with my heart. The machine flagged up the valve and the my kidneys, because I've had a nephrectomy, and you knew I had a nephrectomy, but you didn't know which one. You didn't know which side. You didn't know. I had a partial nephrectomy, so it meant that, and the machine flagged up the darker points were coming up where my nephrectomy was. Yeah. The other thing as well was, which I found totally bizarre, was you'd said to me about, do you ever have problems with your sinuses? So 2 weeks ago, for the first time, maybe a bit longer, I had a really bad sinus problem. Might have been longer than 2 weeks ago. And also, Wednesday morning I woke up with a cold.
Because sometimes
so
with a scan, people, it's based on quantum physics. So I had to go back and study a lot to understand the concept. And trust me, quantum physics wasn't something I learned at school. And so basically with quantum physics, there's no real time. Everything is in the now. All right. So an organ can come up with imbalances. Now, this could be something that has been a problem, currently a problem, or potentially a problem. Now, I actually don't know where it falls in that. I'll still treat it. So quite often I'll pick something up and they go, no, I've never had that. No, it feels all right at the minute. And I kind of have a wee giggle to myself, because I think, what do you say? I'm going to get a phone call in 2 or 3 days' time, because they're going to all of a sudden. And I think one of the funniest one was a man came in doing the scan, and it was his foot came up, all these black squares and round the toes. And I said, oh, do you have athlete's foot? Do your feet get itchy? No, they don't. No. And I thought, okay. I said, did you ever have problems? And it wasn't, he didn't come for that, but this was just a by the by. And then I got a phone call 2 days later. The wife said, you found he's been scratching his feet at night. He doesn't think there was anything, but he's been scratching away at his feet. So, it was picking up. It can pick up silly little things, but it can equally pick up major things going on with cardiovascular and blood circulatory system, which, and then with that Cardio for Life product, just can make such a difference to people's lives, just dealing with what they're experiencing and trying to get to the root cause of it.
Chris has messaged in and he said, Could I ask you a question, Suzanne?
You can.
Do you know if there's any research into fasting to kickstart self-healing? He's been told that there is, but obviously along with a healthy diet.
Yes.
Is fasting something that you
fasting
could do?
is very good. The one thing I'd say about fasting is you need to be in a total fast for at least 17 hours. Because the kind of the common fasting that's going on is the 16-8. But to go into what they call autophagy, where your body starts to break down the harmful cells, you need to be a minimum of 17 hours. So if you're going to do a fast, you're best doing a full 24-hour fast and drink water. But don't take supplements, don't take anything, because anything will knock you off the fast. So you have to be...
So just water?
Just water, yeah.
And you would suggest initially fasting for just 24 hours, and then after that then follow a healthy diet?
Yeah.
Would you do a fast regularly, or once a week? Or
yeah, well I do like I could do a 48-hour fast.
Okay.
I know, and I thought when I first looked, I thought there's no chance, but it can be done. It can be done, and you feel amazing after it. But it's not everybody's cup of tea. So just even doing the intermittent fasting, but make sure it's a minimum of 17 hours. So that's kind of, my maths is shocking, but basically, if you have your last meal at 6 o'clock, don't eat anything for 17 hours, and just that window. Here's somebody's going to be clever in maths than me, but whatever that window is, you then just, have, light foods, vegetables, fish, keep it light, stay away from the processed foods, and definitely cut the breads and the heavier foods, keep it light.
Good question.
Thanks, Chris, for that question. Suzanne, Marcus has just sent me a message and he says, I must play this song for you. This is I've Been to Paradise.
I've never been
but
to
I've
me.
never been to me. Charlene D'Angelo.
Oh, you
and
have
we'll
no
come
idea.
back to the story that goes along with
We
this
will.
after
Oh
we
gosh,
play
yes.
There you go. That was Charlene D'Angelo, and I've been to Paradise, but I've never been to me. And that was requested by your friend Marcus for you, Suzanne, and you have a story about that.
I do. It was many years ago, but it is our little tune when we get together. I was staying at Marcus's house and we were having a bit of a party for two, and we had that on loop, very loud, up in the mount, and his lovely neighbour was banging at the wall because all she could hear was Charlene. I've been to Paradise but I've never been to me.
Please play something different.
Yeah, do you know what? That was the one song on loop the whole night.
Yeah, brilliant.
Suzanne, if you don't mind, we do have some questions.
Okay.
Chris has just messaged in and said thank you for that advice on the fasting. I've had someone else message in about complex PTSD and anxiety.
Yes.
And we were talking about the omegas earlier on. Mm-hmm. Someone who suffers with that, you recommend?
Absolutely, because when you don't have a balance of omegas, your body will strip your natural resources. Mm-hmm. Okay, because it can't get it from if you don't have it in your diet, you can't make it, is what I'm trying to say. Yes. So it will strip from brain tissue, and that then can set you off on all sorts of emotional roller coasters.
So then that's what we said the other evening as well about things like ADHD and ADD. Mm-hmm. So it's really, really important for anybody that's even been diagnosed with that to make sure that they're getting their omegas.
100%. There's enough evidence to support that. There was one actually, not just about omegas, but about reducing processed carbohydrates and sugars will improve and reduce symptoms of ADHD by 54% just by changing the diet.
That's crazy. And Ali says he's been doing fasting for the last 2 to 3 weeks and he has amazing energy in the gym, and in general he feels fantastic.
Yes.
So fasting, really, do you highly recommend it?
Yep.
And I know you do the 48 hours, but that's because you're used to it.
Yes. And I don't do that. Now you hear I'm making myself sound so fabulous, but if I'm not feeling 100%,
you'll do a fast.
That's why I'll do a fast.
Okay. But what you'd recommend if anybody wanted to start out fasting?
Start out with the intermittent, but the normal books will say 16 hours fast, 8 hours eat. I would say make it at least 17 hours, because scientifically that's when the body starts to break down dead cells and
then
damaged.
After you get used to the 17 hours, then you would say at least a full 24 hours.
You do 24, but you don't need to do it all the time. But it's just go with your body, read your body, and but you do feel fabulous for doing it. And if you think something's going to be tough to do, it will be. So your mindset is really important. It's just understand. Trust me, we've enough body fat in most cases to see you through.
Yeah.
The other thing, just going back to the scans and the other things that you do. So I had the bioresonance scan, which is the body scan done with the electromagnetic pulse therapy. Is that what it is?
Well, what you had done, you had the scan, the bioresonance scan. Yeah. I do have another system called PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic field device, and it's a mat that you would lie on, and I would do Reiki or energy healing. It works for 6 hours even after you're off the plinth, and it works on the microcirculation. So it's been used in hospitals for helping to speed up the bone fusions, and it's brilliant for any sort of pain, any health condition. So I do energy healing and Reiki while people are on that plinth as well.
And on a more personal note, you are really quite into manifestation and things like that. Tell us a wee bit about the manifestation, because it's something that I lately in the last few weeks have really wanted to get to know more about. Yes.
Well, I have, from I was 11 years of age, when little girls were wanting to, the Beano Word, Bunty magazine, I was always interested in spiritual books, and and there was a lady way back when called what was her name now? I'm saying, I was about to say Dolores Cannon, but it wasn't her. It was another lady that used to be like a medium. And at 11, I would always be buying her books, which was really odd for a child that age. So I've always been aware that there's a lot more to the world than our physical bodies. And studying energy healing, you realise you deal with physical body, you also have an ethereal body, there's different auras. And with manifestation became a bit of a thing for me, gosh, about 20 years ago. I went to somebody recommended go and do a little course, and it was about manifestation. And the guy talked, says, right, about putting down your goals, write down something that you want to achieve. Now at that stage, I just put down an amount of money. Can't help myself. My dad was a businessman, so financial abundance was something that was important to me at the time.
It's something that's important, I think, to a lot of people.
So I put down an amount of money to be earning in a year, which was, trust me, a hell of a lot more than I was currently earning. And within 3 months, I got offered. I was headhunted by a company, and that was the salary, the amount that I had, put down on this bit of paper. And it was, number one, if I had have tried to think, how am I going to earn this money? What would I want to be doing? So I just wrote it down, as the guy said, right, put down what you want. You have to believe that you'll get it. And I actually didn't really believe in it, but because I couldn't really grasp how it would feel to earn that amount of money. So that happened. So that put me on the path. Now, that happened, which was great. But then I ended up, getting divorced on the other hand with, marriage breakup. So it swings and roundabouts. So I've learned to use it more positively now. And it is really important that our thoughts do create a reality. And I deal a lot with people with their health problems. And often I can see when people come in and they'll start, oh, I've been diagnosed with this, I have this, and I'm really tired. And, and I kind of want to kind of go, stop. Let's pare this back a bit, because you can create more of the symptoms by focusing on them. So although, manifestation in its own right it does work and it's amazing, I try and use it more, helping people focus on their healing journey.
So on that note, the other thing that I have discovered in this last week really is how we speak to ourselves. And the impact that has. So if someone constantly says, oh, I'm stupid, or someone says to you, you're stupid, and constantly says that, or you're constantly, dissing yourself, it actually does have an impact.
Oh, it certainly does.
And can have an effect.
It certainly does.
On you and how you are and your behaviour. Do you know anything about that, Suzanne?
I do, yeah, absolutely. Because with understanding your thoughts create your reality. Now, if you have palpitations, they'll put little electrodes on and they can measure your heart. But now they've got these systems, they can measure your brain waves where it's not attached to your head. They're right here, maybe about, 10 inches from your head. So your thoughts do, the ripple effect. But yeah, understanding your body listens, your words are very, very powerful. And I often will deal with clients who are saying, I'm just always tired, and this is wrong, that. And when you're saying it, your body is hearing it. It's a program that you have created for yourself. So it is really important to speak more kindly to yourself and know that whatever you're saying. Now, my thing is, I tell everybody that my maths is shocking. Can't count and I'm going, do you know what? I do all the manifestation and saying all the right things, but I keep saying that. So I'm keeping myself,
holding
myself back of being able to.
Do you, Paulette, when you think about yourself, because I think this is something that we as women, I think a lot of women fall into this as well. Do you try to think of yourself sometimes as another person? I've started to try and think of myself this way, because I think I wouldn't speak to another person the way I speak about myself and the way I put myself down. I wouldn't do that to someone else, because I'd be thinking of their feelings and hurting their feelings and the effect that would have on them. Yet I would do it to myself. So I have tried to, and just this last week, I've tried to sort of separate myself from myself and view me, and when I'm thinking about me or talking about me, as if I were another person.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, no, kind of can relate to that a bit, but I think this last lot of years, it's about accepting who you are as well. And I try to accept who I am, as in not wanting to look younger. I just want to look good for who I am today. And, you know, also try to be kind to myself. And I know that when people are going through grief and stuff like that, I'll say to them, be kind to yourself. Allow yourself to feel what you need to feel.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're too harsh on ourselves, especially women in today's society. We'll look at ourselves and go, I look horrible, or I look fat, or I look this and that and the other. I just try to accept myself for who I am, you know, and be kind to myself. Rather than look at myself as a different person, I just try and talk to myself that way.
I think it is true as well, if we could only see ourselves the way other people see us.
Yes.
Especially those who love us as well. But
Yes.
not only that, other people I don't really know will come up to me at gigs and stuff at weekends and go, oh my goodness, you look amazing, and, you know, I love your hair, I love this or whatever. And, you know, I'm looking at myself going like, oh, you're a fat mess. You know, like, it's just, I think, you know, the power of those words to ourselves is exactly what you're saying. You know, that they really can either hurt us or heal us, you know, and I think it's important for us to be as kind to ourselves as what we would be to someone else.
Absolutely.
The other thing as well, Paulette, that you talked about earlier, and I did want to come back to it, but you talked about off mic, was how are the scales tipped now for women and men?
Yep.
Where years ago we were talking about, it was your mum stayed at home and did the cooking and your dad went out to work, where now our lives have changed that much.
Absolutely. I think it's really, really important, and I think it's really important for women just to take a step back, hit the reset button. We have done amazing, you know, this while back, women, you know, when coming out of the kitchen, finding that we can have a career. We're doing better at university. We are now taking managership roles in the workplace. We're moving on to taking leadership roles in large companies. But we're still actually going home and doing the majority of the non-paid work, which has gone back, you know, and being the one that has to take control of the home chores, you know, like changing all the beds and doing all the bed sheets and, you know, doing the majority of all of that work. And is it any wonder after a while we do start to feel exhausted? And when we do get to the stage where our bodies are more vulnerable with menopause, that we do start to get angry and lash out at people at home. But I also think that we have to accept responsibility of that. We have to step back and go, we actually need to delegate. And it's okay to delegate. It's not okay to say, it's actually, I'll just do it myself, and be angry about it, because then you carry that anger. We need to start, you know, delegating and expecting a bit more from other people in the house. And I also worry about our young men growing up as well, because they're probably thinking, you know, women are now, I've always been the main breadwinner in my house. I've always been the one that it's my responsibility to pay for the mortgage and to pay for all of these bills. And it's actually quite a suffocating feeling sometimes, you know, that you're like, you know, it all comes down to me having to do this, plus come home and keep the house to the expectation of the way I would like it, you know, a clean home, but a nice home. But then our men are growing up thinking, where do I fit into this now? Men used to be the ones that provide it, and we're not doing that anymore. And is it okay for a man to say, okay, I'll be the stay-at-home parent and you go out to work? Will society frown upon him? You know, and, you know, is society doing anything to support our men as well? You know, to feel that they fit in and to respect these women that are now, you know, taking more of that leadership role and, you know, more of the main breadwinner role and stuff like that in the house. I have young sons growing up, and I want them to be prepared for when, you know, how they can work along with their partners and finding the balance in their home and in their future with their families as well.
I think that's part of what I hope to achieve as well on this journey, is what we've talked about before, is creating some kind of toolkit. You and I and John have talked about it, creating a toolkit to roll out into organisations and companies to educate and give people the right tools to be able to navigate things like menopause, so that men can understand, because obviously they're not experiencing it.
Yep.
Although I do believe they go through something,
Absolutely.
a menopause of some degree. But not just menopause, other things as well. But it is that kind of thing where when we're born and we're brought up, especially the years that I was brought up, you know, the men were the breadwinners, and you know the women did stay at home.
The
and
masculine ones.
Yes,
It was all this
you
kind
know,
of
and the women did. They weren't the protectors. They weren't the providers.
homemakers.
We were the homemakers, and I think, you know, it's only natural if we have that in our heads that men, then they're brought up, you know, like it's like, you know, don't show your emotions. You can't do that. And the guys in this station, they probably have talked about this quite a lot. You know, about it is okay to say, look, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how to get my way through this. Is there a way to do it? And I think that's the key, is by talking about it. And you know, some men there are men listening to this show, I know, because you've messaged, you know, people might be listening to this today and going, oh, it's just women talk. But I do think there's a lot of information that you could take away from this, and that will, especially for the, you know, the male gender, that can go away and actually use it as a tool and something to draw back on at a later stage, if the occasion or when the occasion arises. Because I think in workplaces, especially things like the menopause, women in pregnancies, you know, puberty, things like that, it is a very taboo thing, you know, because you get, I heard something, you know, a guy referring to a woman not that long ago in work, you know, whispering, you know, oh, is she going through the change? And there was actually something on this morning recently, because the lady took him to court.
Yep.
And it was deemed, you know, it wasn't offensive or whatever. And I can understand to a certain degree, because he doesn't know any better. And that's not how you approach it. You know, it's okay to openly say, are you going through the menopause?
Yep.
I do feel for the lady who had the issue, because it sounded like it could have been in a patronising way, which I find is the majority of how it's referred to. It's quite patronising. So I think that by talking about it and making it normal, and making it and letting, you know, the other gender know, you know, of what the symptoms are and what we actually do put up with, you know, that thing they did years ago with men and the women with the pregnancies, and they put the TENS machine on the man to let him feel what contractions were
how
like.
tough labour really is.
It's kind of similar to that. I think, you know, maybe given the right information out there, you know, that then it will become a thing where it will be more. Yeah. Because women have lost their jobs because of menopause and hormones.
I was nearly down that road myself,
you know,
feeling
because our brains aren't functioning the way that they were, and things like that. So we're not doing our job the way that we used to, or we're not doing something the way they used to. The other thing as well is, Paulette, that I just made a quick note of it when you said it. And you were saying about, you know, I just find out, you know, I just say, well, I'll just do it myself because that's not how I want it.
Yep.
So the difference in something being done right or being done is, the being done right is what you see as being done right, and not actually.
No, I think it's more like everybody's beds needs to be changed and bed linen done every week. So it's like, I'll just do it myself, because you'll get, I don't know how to put a duvet cover on, mummy, will you do it for me? You know, and it's quicker for me just to go up and do it.
So my thing is that
high expectations.
It's my expectations aren't. I know my wife listens to this, and she'll probably dissect this when I get home and say to me, remember when you said that on the radio? You know, I know that a lot of the times my expectations are too high. Yeah. And it's okay to have expectations. It's okay to go for the higher goals, but not everybody's the same. And so by me saying, you know, it's not done right, it's just not done right by my standard.
Yes. Well, like,
you know,
we could be all guilty of that.
So
as well.
I think
managing our own expectations.
Yes, managing our own expectations will allow us then to, you know, give the tasks out and delegate them, and not be worried. If it's, you know, if the floor's washed, the floor's washed. You know, don't be worrying about, you know, did I use Fairy Liquid or did I use Flash? It's clean. Yeah. You know, it's been washed. If the bed's changed, the bed's changed. And it doesn't matter if the sheet's poking up at the corner and it's not quite as neat. Or
on inside out.
Or on inside out. It's been done, and as long as I'm not sleeping on it, that's fine. You know, that's the way I look at it. But back to looking after ourselves, and Suzanne, you talked about manifestation and things like that. I think that it's something that I want to explore a bit more on the manifestation and the looking after me, And I think, rather than going and buying all these different supplements, is just getting the right supplements, making sure I'm taking the right ones, because I'm probably, I haven't calculated how much I spend in a month on supplements. But it is important. What's the point in spending any money if you're not getting the right amount and things like that? And then the treatments that we give ourselves, we go and get our nails done and our hair done. But I mean, I think a really important thing is our inside, and, that electromagnetic
I mean,
thing.
it's lovely. It's really relaxing. It helps to rebalance. As I mentioned earlier, we all have chakras, and people can say, it sounds a bit woo-woo, but I mean, Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, they've been thousands and thousands of years old, and they use these principles of your energy field is very, very important. It's been Western medicine that kind of poo-pooed it, and, so it's really stepping back and looking at what your body actually needs. With food sensitivities, that's becoming more prevalent as well. And I believe it's coming from the way food's manufactured, or people eating sort of processed foods, or gut microbiome's not correct. So I do a food sensitivity using kinesiology, which is muscle testing. And it's absolutely amazing what it can pick up, that your body's energy field does not like X, Y, and Z, and then by avoiding it for, say, 4 to 6 weeks, then reintroducing it, your gut can heal and you can cope with small amounts. So it's not like an allergy, but there's more and more food sensitivities are causing people's health to spiral out of control for some people.
And we were talking about the energy thing that you did a test on me the other night, on Tuesday night. And it was a very, very simple thing that you did, but it completely blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind, where you got me to hold my arm out.
Oh yeah, that's kinesiology, that's muscle test.
Is that the muscle test?
Yeah.
You got me to hold my arm out, and you spoke words. So can we just...
Yeah, well, there's different ways that I do it, and I can do it with foods. I can also test people for supplements, what supplement's good for them. I can find out... So say, for example, suggested particular omega that you should be taking, but I can also find out how much of that you need. So I can be very specific. So rather than just looking at the back of a label and say, oh, it says to take 2 of these,
it's very bespoke to each individual.
Yeah. But yes, to show people how their natural body, mind, soul knows what's good for them and knows what's bad, because unfortunately we tend to ignore it because there's marketing, there's different things. So when I do the food sensitivity, or I do a little test where I will touch and
you
blow.
did that on me.
I'll touch and blow on your skin, and then if the arm goes weak, because it's very strange, it's not until you experience it. If the arm goes weak, that is your body on fight or flight.
So this is what you did on me the other night. You asked me a question, a simple question, like is your name...
Yes.
What is the question that you do ask?
It varies. It varies. And I do... So for yourself, I'm trying to remember exactly what it is. Because we never stopped talking for 2.5 hours.
You can imagine. I think you asked me something very straightforward anyway. So say you asked me what my name was, and you put your hand on top of my arm and you asked me to resist you pushing it down. And obviously then I was resisting.
Yes, yeah.
And then you did something really bizarre, which was exactly the same thing, but you run your finger along my arm, just my forearm, and you very lightly touched it, and then you blew on it, and then you asked me again, and you asked me to resist, and my arm just flopped down.
Yeah. That's the
fight or flight.
That's the fight or flight. I could have tested you and pressed your arm firmly, and your body was okay with that. But that very light touch and blow.
So what does that tell you, Suzanne?
That indicated that there's a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of fight or flight, that you're always putting this kind of
pressure and
this front that you're confident and you're in control of everything. But the reality is, once I did that, it just showed that your body went into a little bit shutdown mode. So there's other little meridian points you can touch, and I can discover other imbalances. And then we can do it with your eyes as well. So you can get your eyes to work in a certain pattern, and every direction your eyes will move
Oh, you were
will
doing
tell
that
me
on me as
something
well.
else. So we can find out whether there's hypoxia, not enough oxygen getting around the body, whether you're dehydrated, whether you've got food sensitivities, whether nutritionally you're imbalanced, whether there's mechanical issues, energy issues, or toxicity in the body. So there's lots of things that you can find out. The body's amazing, honestly.
So-
if you knew what control you had
Yeah.
by rebalancing yourself,
And a
you'd be
positive
amazing.
mindset as well.
Absolutely.
We might need to hire a bus to bring everybody down for these
Oh,
tests,
listen.
Suzanne, at this rate.
Bring them all in.
So your website is healthdirectni.com.
Yeah.
So healthdirectni.com, and I will place it on if you go to the Let's Do Brunch Facebook page, and I'm sure Pulse Online Radio, they'll share it on the main page. But the Let's Do Brunch has a separate page on Facebook. It's just Let's Do Brunch, and I will put the links and some, because we took some video footage the
Yes,
other night, and we took
thank
some
you.
photographs, and I'll put the links all up there, and you can book to come to have the test done. And I would definitely say, before I went in my mind for research, because of the show today, and I wanted to really understand what we were talking about. But I came away thinking, oh, I definitely could benefit from a lot of what Suzanne can provide. And the good thing about it is you're not sponsored by any particular company, so you're not going to try and sell us something that just for the sake of commission or anything like that.
Not at all.
And that's the thing that I liked about it as well, Suzanne. You were very honest, and even you brought us a book each today, so Paulette and I, and it's not even one of your books. It's another book.
Yeah.
And so I do think anybody listening out there, it would be worthwhile, whether you do have something you're suffering with, or you're just feeling a little bit out of whack. I definitely think it would be worthwhile, Suzanne, than booking to get the bioresonance scan done.
Absolutely.
And to see where you're at and what's happening. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank
I really
you.
do appreciate it.
It's
We
great.
could talk about this all day long.
You're fascinating. You really are.
Thank you. It was lovely to meet
Isn't
you
it
both.
absolutely
Yeah.
fascinating? So thank you so much, Suzanne, for joining us today. So that's Suzanne from healthdirectni.com, and I'll play you this song while I'm saying goodbye to Suzanne to let her get on, because I'm sure she's a very busy lady, and I'll let her get on about her business today. A wealth of knowledge, and I'd love to have you back, Suzanne. I'd love
I
to
would
have
love
you
to be
back.
back, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much, and I know you've travelled up today from Armagh, so thank you so much. This is Unstoppable. See ya.
You have International Women's Day coming up early March as well.
That's right. That was See Ya, Unstoppable. We were just talking about International Women's Day. So we've said goodbye there to Suzanne Chalkley from Health Direct NI, a fountain of knowledge that lady is. And we were just like, Paulette said to me there when the song was playing, she said to me, I was just sitting with my mouth open looking at her because there's so many questions in your head. So we're definitely going to book to go back down.
We need more ladies like her coming
Yeah.
out and speaking out and
Yeah.
making themselves, aware. I didn't know she existed. Really.
You know, a lot of it I would have put down, that, okay, my dad always said mumbo jumbo.
Yep.
But it actually does make sense. A lot of it does make a lot of sense. And that's the thing. So it would be really good to go down and get a real feel for what else is going on. And it's good as well to have the knowledge of what's going on inside us.
Yep, 100%.
The whole thing with the bacteria and everything else, I wouldn't have had a clue.
Yep.
So, we sorry, anybody's just joined us. You're listening to Pulse Online Radio. This is Let's Do Brunch with Alex J. And I'm joined in the studio at the minute with Paulette Pinkerton, a good friend of mine. We're going to talk about what's coming up for Paulette. This number, if you want to get in touch for the last 30 minutes, we're down to the last 30 minutes of the show, Paulette.
It's just went in so quickly.
WhatsApp is 077 561 61456. It's 077 561 61456. Thank you so much to anybody that's already messaged into the show, and we've asked your questions, hopefully. And if I've missed you, send me another message. So listen, Paulette, we were just talking about you're off to India.
So I'm off to India next month with my manager. Yes, and I'm going to be there for a week. Already stressing out what I'm going to eat and how I'm going to cope with the heat.
Well, that's the thing. it's going to be scorching heat
Yep.
there at the minute.
Real humidity heat.
And you're not. We were talking about food because you're.
Plain Jane.
If we go out for a meal, you bring an HP sauce with you.
I bring my sachet of sauce with me, yes.
Yes, we could get a big steak and Paulette will ask for her HP sauce.
HP sauce. It's just the way I like it.
So I think you'll be fine because I'm pretty sure there'll be people in India don't eat all. It's not all spicy food.
I
sure.
know that my manager went last year. I was supposed to actually go last year with him, but I didn't because my dad was ill, so I couldn't go. And he was like, "Oh God," he came back and thought I just couldn't eat a lot of the food. And there was one of the nights that the chef was amazing, and he actually came out and made him fish fingers.
You're joking.
In one of the restaurants. So he was like, I'm mortified. He said, but he made him these amazing big massive fish fingers while everybody's eating, you know, all this amazing food and different spices. He's there with his fish fingers. So we're like, we'll go back to that restaurant then.
And the thing is, you'll not eat the fish fingers unless they're cod.
Unless it's cod.
So we were talking earlier on about, you know, all the things that you've come through and the fact that you started out as a single parent.
Yeah.
And you managed to forge a career for yourself, a very successful career and a great career.
Thank you.
And on top of that, you were able to do what a lot of people worry about, is you were able to buy your own home as a single parent. And now you're the mother of 4 children.
4.
All grown up.
All grown up.
And I can testify they are exemplary children.
They're amazing. I'm very proud of them.
Exemplary children. And you're now a grandmother?
I'm a grandmother, and so I have a beautiful grandson. His name is Leo, and he's 3. And I also have a new grandson, which is due in June, and I believe he's going to be Christopher Thomas.
Oh, that's lovely.
It's a beautiful name. So Thomas will be after Dad. Yeah.
How have you found the granny role? Are you granny or nanny?
Oh, whatever he wants to call
Okay.
me. So he calls me granny, and he's just adorable. And you know, when I look at him, I can see more of his mum's family in him. But then there's this little personality that comes out, you know, that cheekiness that you just love in toddlers, and that's definitely my son.
I was
that
gonna
comes
say
out
that.
in him. I can definitely see characteristics of James that comes out in him. He's incredibly intelligent, you know, a lot more advanced for his years as he would be. And he's amazing. He really is, and I'm hoping to get to see him next weekend. So look forward to that.
And we talked about our because you and I are friends outside. We met through. We just met socially because we both have caravans in the same place, and we're very fortunate now. Obviously, that we've got a wee group of friends, but. You were talking to me about Angie because I know Angie.
Yes,
but Angie is your next. She lives next door to you.
She lives
but
next
you're like
door.
sisters.
We are, and everybody needs an Angie in their life. She is amazing. So I met her 25 years ago, when we were buying our houses, and we had bought them when they were stuck in the ground. They hadn't been built. And we both used to drag our parents up all the time to see how many bricks was built that day. We were just so excited about our homes, and that's how we met. And we have been through everything together. We've been through, you know, having babies together, you know, the loss of loved ones together, rearing our children together, and, you know, we do everything together. Most of all of our family holidays is together. Our kids, because we had so many kids as well, we couldn't afford to go on abroad holidays every year. So our kids spent their holidays in fields. We were campers.
Yes.
You know, so we've done everything together, and we've went beyond best friends. You know, we're much
You're like
closer
family
than
now,
we
really,
are
aren't
family.
you?
And her children call me auntie. You know, they would refer to me as auntie, as mine would to them. You know, so we all need that special friend.
That's something
in our lives.
that I do say on the show, and I have said because I've had a lot of my friends on so far. I mean, this is the 3rd show,
Yeah.
and I think every show I've had every show I've had friends on, every single one,
Yeah.
because I have this amazing group friendship
Yeah.
circle,
Yeah.
and you've met them all,
And they are all, and some of them are just the talent, you know.
But my friendship circle, we Karen and I are so fortunate,
Yes.
that we the friends we do have are good quality, but I want to talk about you in particular, and the fact that you and I have something in common because we both have lost our fathers.
Yep.
But at a very young age, how old were you, Paulette, when because you have 7 brothers?
7, yep.
You lost your first brother when you were really young.
Yep. So
At a tragic accident.
Yeah, terrible tragedies. Well, first of all, I lost a little sister that I never got to meet. So mum had a baby. I just remember when I was really young, mum coming home one day with her trench coat on. I remember the coat and me thinking, where's the baby? Because she left to have her baby, and sadly the baby died at birth. And I remember that so well, and I was quite young. And when I was 13, so a very, very vulnerable age in a young girl's life, we were at our local swimming pool, and my brother was 8. And he had been brought to the swimming pool with our neighbours, with their children. And at one stage, just throughout the day, my friends and I were throwing black bricks in, the deep end and diving for them. And when we dove in, we had seen a body under the water. And to my shock, it was my young brother had drowned. Yeah. Nobody had seen anything. He was at the bottom of the pool. And so I was 13. He was only 8 at the time.
And how does a 13-year-old process that?
It was, and I think at the time then, most of all the support would go to the parents. Yeah. They kind of forget about the children because it's the mummy and daddy. And at that stage, I still had younger brothers. There was actually a newborn baby in our house. So my brother, one of the brothers then would have been maybe 3 months old. Mm-hmm. So, my job is like, take the baby and go and sleep somewhere else. And you take the baby, and that kind of went on for a while. And I kind of thought that was the hard part. Mm-hmm. Was when you became invisible, but it was like, it is a traumatic event for a child. And every time one of my kids turned 13, I used to look at them and go, I was that age when that happened to me. Yeah. I would like to think that if one of my kids experienced something like that I would find help for them. Better support for them, even as being the parent as well. But it was very, very difficult. And I did have a close network of young girlfriends as well, but obviously they're only 13 as well. They don't know how to guide you or to help you. And any of the aunts and uncles, their main focus was my parents and helping my parents.
And I think that's something that's quite common, because I know when I was probably 8-year-old when I lost my great-grandfather, mm-hmm. who I used to go to every day after school and make him a cup of tea. Him and I used to sit and make a cup of tea. He wasn't that particularly fussed on his grandchildren, but he was quite partially fond of me. And he used to let me go in and make cups of tea, and him and I had the best crack, and he'd save up 5p's in a wee box for me. And, he was incredibly kind to my mum when my young sister-in-law was born, which not really would be in his character, because he wasn't really a particularly pleasant person by all accounts of other people. But I do remember him passing away, and me being extremely sad about it, and asking, could I go to the funeral, and my dad saying no, because it wasn't a place for children to be. And I remember the adults all around me getting on with things, and I was left, I think, with my mum's parents at the time. I think that's where I was left for them to look after me while the funeral and all was happening. And then after that, I'm not faulting the adults in the situation, because I just think years ago that's just the way it was. And that actually did have, and still does have, an effect on me. The loss. And I really do remember, and always will remember, my great-grandfather. He was my daddy's granddad. And so I have that in my mind. I then think of my nephews, one of my nephews, he's 6-year-old. I think of him and how we talk about my dad. My dad passed away way before he was born. So my dad, almost 10 years.
And he's got your daddy's curly hair.
But he never knew my dad. But we can't really talk about my dad in front of him, because he gets so upset.
He gets upset.
And I don't really know exactly what he's getting upset about. I don't know if it's a case of he's sad because he didn't know him, or is he sad because he knows we've lost him?
He's reading your body language.
I'm just not sure. Mm-hmm. And also as well, I'm very aware that children can be really in tune with emotions and things like that. So I'm not sure about why, but so that's what makes me think of the time when so you went through that as a 13-year-old, and then after that, years later.
It was very difficult, because obviously when you're grieving, you're also still living in a household where there's a child that's missing. And so it's not that you just start to get over that you know you're also impacted by your mummy and daddy's grief,
Yeah.
because the death of a child can near enough separate marriages.
Yeah.
And you know, thankfully my mummy and daddy's marriage was strong, but there was the rockiness that was going on at the same time as well. And there was, when mum used to wake up in the middle of the night, you know, when you're so struck with grief, you're like, is this a nightmare or is it real?
Yeah.
So we used to hear her getting out of bed and running to his bedroom, you know, and seeing the empty bed, and then the whole process with the reality would start. So we were living with that
So I
as
think
well.
grief, and how it was explained to me one time, and it's always stuck with me, grief is like a wheel. And, you know, so you are going round in a circle, and it goes through pockets of emotions. So, you know, you go through the can't believe stage, you know, so
It's the stages of grief,
yes,
they call it, yeah.
And I think, you know, the wheel, all I can tell someone from my own experience is the wheel does seem to go very fast, because it goes through all the different emotions, because you go through the anger and you don't accept it, and the disbelief and all that. And then, you know, you come round to acceptance again, you think, right, I've accepted it, and, you know, you seem to be okay, but then it all starts spinning again.
Yeah.
But eventually the wheel does slow down.
Yeah.
It just so happens for you, Paulette, that you have had a lot of weeks.
No, absolutely. And then when I was 29, I had one older brother, and when we were kids, we used to kill each other. You couldn't have walked past one another without thumping them. As you do. But when we became adults, he taught me how to drive. You know, his name was Thomas, and him and I were just so close. And then when he got married, I was so close to his wife. And me, him, and my daddy used to be the three amigos. The three of us were just so close. We socialised together. We did everything together. And I remember on the Friday when I found out that I was pregnant with Daniel. So, and I had been trying to get pregnant. And
Daniel's your second child?
Yep. And the first person I told was my brother Thomas, and he was delighted. The first thing he wanted to do was for me and him to get a bottle of Buckfast. And I said, actually, no, I'm pregnant. I can't drink Buckfast. And I was actually seeing him on the Monday. I was meeting him at the house with his two children. He had an 8-year-old and a baby boy at 10 months. And the reason why we were meeting up were his brother-in-law was getting married that Friday. And we were doing the organisation of who was taking his kids. So that was the last time I seen him. And then on the Tuesday, he was working on a building site, and he was crushed to death in the building site. So instead of that wonderful wedding that was meant to take place in the family that Friday, it was my brother's. It was my brother's funeral. Mm-hmm. And I actually think death and grief for each person you lost is totally different. There's not one grief journey that's the same. Where the first brother, Jim's, was more traumatic for me. Nightmares, it's carried through with my children. I can't go to public swimming pools. I'm just too anxious. Going abroad to a water world is, you know, with the slides and stuff, is just like the worst place.
We experienced that at the caravan, because we take the kayaks out on the water.
Yeah.
And I think you from when I first met you 6 years ago to now, I think you've got a lot better at handling it. And I don't know what is it that you've done that makes it different, or what do you do to be able to cope with that? Because I can understand the fear that you have. Total
fear. Even when we have the kayaks for the kids, that's probably why I fell into health and safety. Because if you were proactive rather than reactive, things don't happen. You know, safety first. My brother, the one that was killed in the building site, you know, so I think that's probably why I've fallen into this field. Whereas when my kids were going out in their kayaks, they have obviously their life jackets on, but we also have water resistant radios. So that if they're out and they get afraid or they get frightened, you know, that there's always a point of being able to contact. Nobody's getting into trouble.
Could you cope if they didn't have those things?
No, they wouldn't be allowed out on them. They wouldn't be allowed in them. In fact, there was one stage I was just going to put a rope in the kayak so that I could pull them back. And, you know, so I think with Jim, that's a trauma that's always going to be there. That's never going to be away. If I was ever to be at a swimming pool with grandchildren and stuff, you know, I would be a nervous wreck. It wouldn't be a good idea for me to go with them. And I just have to accept that. That's just there. And I don't think it's going to go away. But when Thomas died, that was something that was completely different, because I also lost a best friend. And then I had to watch my daddy's raw emotions, which was kind of hard as well, because then you have to be strong for your daddy, and then he's trying to be strong for you. And then also he had children and stuff like that. And I think it took me about 4 or 5 years before I could drive to his house and no longer expect his car to be there.
Yeah.
Or, for him to answer the door. It took me a long time to get there. And I think what really made me strong with him, because he loved his life. That was like him living with his wife and kids. This was his heaven. And he had his life ripped from him. And I just thought to myself, he will kill me if he sees me sitting here and not moving on, because he would do anything to get here. Plus I could die in the morning and be up with him tomorrow and not make the most of what I've got here today.
You're robbing yourself, and you're robbing the people
robbing
around you.
yourself and yourself around you. And I think that was the main part of me giving myself a good kick up the backside, and I'm moving on with that. And I always go back to God works in mysterious ways. So his youngest son is now in his mid-20s, and he is now dating my lovely Angie's daughter.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the line, and they've been dating for years, they've got a good, strong relationship. And if there's a child there, it's actually going to blood connect our two families. Do you know? So it's there. There's a beautiful journey mixed in with that as well. Through Stephen. And it's also sad because the older son is married to a beautiful girl and they have two beautiful children. And that, that would make me cry because he's missing out on being a grandfather. And he would have been an amazing grandfather as well. And then obviously, I think it was about 10 years after that, my other brother, who was 27, was killed tragically in a car accident. And then 6 years after that, Mum got diagnosed with lung cancer at the age of 59. So leaving my poor daddy, with no wife anymore, and Thomas would have been the son that he was very close to. He was missing his right arm man, as he would have called him, and still getting over Jim. So there was a lot there for him to get through. And I would have looked at him and went, well, if you can do this, we can all do this together. And we stuck together with him. And and you got to meet my dad as well, because he adopted you in Carn, because you don't have your daddies either. And he said he would adopt you and he would be your daddies as long as you kept serving him the alcohol in your caravan and stuff like that. And sadly we lost him 10 months ago. So it's been, each block of 10 years has brought some sort of tragedy, grief, death, loss. And I did promise myself 2026, because the last few years with Dad, because he got a lung disease, never smoked in his life, he was a very healthy man, still walking up more mountains with me and stuff. And my brother Sean and I, we thought 2016 we are moving forward. We are not, we will take Daddy's memory and his memories and all the lovely stories, we're taking them with us, but we are going to live our life.
Well, that's it. And your dad set a good example of that, because he lost your mum, and you all lost your mum, but he lost his literally half of himself. Because that's what I think, when you're in a relationship with someone, it's not just, you're not losing the person, you're losing half of yourself.
Absolutely.
And he forged on, and not saying the times weren't hard, but he forged on and he carried on, and he was a remarkable man.
He was remarkable.
He had a remarkable sense of humour, and he just was a new nickname, Santa Claus.
Santa Claus, we dressed him as, he did. He had the perfect beard and the hair and stuff in the last few years, because we knew that with the disease that he had, we wanted to have lots of memories for the grandchildren with them holding and stuff like that.
And
but
he was the type of person, you couldn't not laugh when you were in his company.
Oh, he was hilarious.
And him and I loved to trade the stories, because back in the day and things that, went on. And he would say, do you remember this or do you remember that? And even though, like, I'm 50 now, I could still remember, because I was brought up where my grandparents constantly talked, both sets of my grandparents constantly talked about back in the day. So, I was always around my grandparents. So it was really, really good to be able to have those conversations. And I do remember when your dad, he wasn't well, and I said, will I make him a pot of ribs? Because he loved the ribs and the cabbage and the ribs. The only thing that I was sorry about was I didn't, because we never got cabbage in our ribs at home, because my dad didn't like vegetables. And it was my dad that made the ribs. And And I didn't know, do you boil it? Is it white cabbage? And do you boil the cabbage with the ribs? And I was trying to ask people, and people go, no, I never had cabbage with it either. So it was just one of those things. But I think it's because my dad just didn't like vegetables. We never got it. So I don't even think I did the right cabbage, but he was very graceful and he enjoyed it.
He ate all of it until he actually made himself sick. So, but I just think that grief is something that every single person has experienced. They've gone through it, and I don't think we talk about it enough either.
No, we don't. And also as well, it's a kind of thing that when we talk about grief, we talk about being sad, but actually as time has went on, time doesn't heal. No, it doesn't.
Does not. We just adjust
and
adapt.
I think you learn how you handle it. I think you learn different ways of coping and how to handle it. So time doesn't heal because you're still missing 100%. That person. And I think as well, we always have fear that we're going to forget them, or we're going to, because we're not using their name on the daily and everything else. My dad his name is always used in the daily. Karen's parents, we always refer to her parents, every day in life. There's always something, and whether it's just the thing that Karen says that reminds me of her mum or reminds me of her dad, and I likewise, obviously, for her. So it's good just to keep the memories alive.
It really is, and I think the thing that makes me proud, obviously, with James, the older son, having that missing parent, and my dad becoming, the stand-in. And I said before, James called him Dad, and James actually changed his name. So my grandchildren will carry on my daddy's name. They will be, they will be Wilson. So that's my daddy's legacy is getting carried on through them, which is, it really warms my heart. But I know that when I talk to people who are experiencing raw grief at the minute, so there's a friend of mine who's just lost her husband to a very short battle of cancer, and he was only in his 40s, and there's nothing really you can ever say. But what I say to them is, and they know me and they go, look at my mummy and daddy. Yeah. We are living proof that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and you will get through this. Yeah. That we are, and I like to talk about it. Sometimes I'll get upset and I'll cry, and I allow myself to do that.
You have to allow. I think
allow myself to do that.
It's important, and it's important.
100%. Allow yourself to feel what you need to feel.
Why would you hide it? Yeah. Because clearly it's someone that you loved, someone that meant so much to you and had a massive impact in your life. Why hide that?
100%.
They helped to shape you.
Totally. And, and I know that when we lost Dad, I had waked him from my house, but the conversation going out through all the wakes was Thomas. Everybody took, because it was, there's only certain members of the family you ever only see.
Thomas and your dad were very close.
Very, very close. Yeah. And because he was so loved in the community and well liked, people still talk about him, and because his death was such a tragedy. But so it was just lovely to still hear the stories about him. Yeah. After all of these years, people will never forget him, and that's keeping him alive.
Yeah, that's important.
That's important for people.
We're going to go to another song. This is "Toy Soldiers" by Martika. I hadn't heard this for ages. Toy Soldiers. I heard that song for ages, and it's such a lovely song. Paulette and I are just talking about life and how when everything else feels like it's spinning out of control, what are the things that you can just control yourself, that because the other things, if you can't help it, you can't be in control of them, but do something for yourself to take the control back. And we're talking about the grief, and it's okay to look back, and it's okay to hold on to the memories and keep the memories alive, but not live with regrets. Not live with, I should have done this or I should have done that. If you didn't, you didn't, and that's okay. And we're pretty sure those people still loved you the way that you were.
Absolutely. And we're all human beings. We're not perfect. And we're entitled to our feelings.
Paulette, would you believe that it is 9 minutes to 3 o'clock?
No, I didn't. It's just flew
If you have just joined us, sadly, with 9 minutes to the end of the show, you're listening to Alex J on Let's Do Brunch at Pulse Online Radio. And there's still time to WhatsApp in if you want to. It's 077 561 61456. I'm going to play a wee song here called Count On. No, it's not Count On Me, Keep Showing Up. And I found this song last night. I'll play it to you in the studio as well, Paulette. This is called Keep Showing Up. I think it's very poignant. By Dr. Jose de la Rosa.
I'm impressed that you got that out.
I'm impressed myself. That was called Keep Showing Up. If you want to look it up and add it to your playlist, you can. It's Dr. Jose de la Rosa, Mambo Time. that's who sings it. And it's actually an inspirational album of songs. And I just came across it last night and I thought, I really, really like that. It's really catchy. So I thought I'd stick it on the playlist today. Paulette and I were just talking about, feeling when you've been looking after someone who's maybe been ill and you've lost them, and sometimes you can feel relief, that you're now coming out the other side of that and they're gone, but relief for them as well as much as yourself. But how we actually feel guilty for feeling that, too, because we put a lot on ourselves that we don't realise.
I think as women we allow ourselves to feel guilty about going to work.
Yeah.
And even our kids at home, we feel guilty for chastising our kids, chastising our teenagers. Our life is just about feeling guilty for our actions, but our actions are for the greater good. And I think it's one of women's, again, we need to kind of take stock and stop doing that as well.
And I'm just going to leave this final thought before I play the last song of the show. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
today.
very much for
honestly,
having me today. Thank you.
My friends have been amazing, but Paulette, for you to come in, you've actually taken the whole day off work and everything. So thank you so much.
Always here to support you.
Honestly, and thank you to Suzanne as well from Health Direct NI, because she is just a fountain of knowledge. And it was great to have her here. I'd love to have her back as you as well. I'd love to have you back because there's lots of things we haven't talked about today. But just a final thought before you go. We were just saying there, and I was saying the reason why I wanted to bring you on the show is because when I think of inspirational women and strong women and super women in my life, you would be one of the ones that would come immediately to my head.
Thank you.
And you said, it's really funny to think somebody thinks that of me, but your life story and from where you started to where you are now and everything that you've come through, you really are an inspiration, Paulette.
Thank you.
The thing about it is that you've done it and you're such a graceful person as well and a humble person.
Thank you.
And any of my friends that have ever met you, and especially at the wedding, they all love you and think that you are that. And John too.
Yeah.
So I'm saying thank you so much to you and to John for being such great friends to me. I'm going to leave you with this song now.